Our new partner who I'm really, really excited to announce we are working with. Super, super stoked. Thank you, Angie Huberman, for this connect. It's incredible. AG1 Athletic Greens. I've been using them for a while. I have them every morning on an empty stomach. Basically, take one scoop and you put it into a cup or glass or mug of 8 ounces of cold water. And this is all your greens for the day. You're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens. Every day I take this. It's so good for my digestion, my energy. It's simple. It's easy. I don't like taking a lot of vitamins. This has been really, really helpful for me. I've had a lot of stomach issues my whole life, and ever since I've been gluten-free and taking the AG1s, it's really helped me in my stomach in the mornings. I love it, and I'm so psyched that they're part of the One Life One Chance podcast. I'm sure a lot of people don't like eating greens, let alone drinking your greens, but I can tell you straight up, it's got a mild tropical taste, and the taste is actually really refreshing, and I really look forward to it each morning. Don't think it's just going to be just straight bland. It tastes really, really good, and it's good for you, so remember that. This one blend of ingredients supports your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, your energy, recovery, focus, and aging. It's incredible, just one scoop, especially for musicians who are vegans or just musicians in general who want to get those daily greens. You can get the packets. It's incredible. I just gave some to my friend Derek from Sepultura. He traveled the whole entire world this summer, and he had those every single day. He said it saved him. I bring AG1s with me when I travel. It helps me stay healthy. You know the deal. If you're on tour and you are a picky eater, but you need to have your greens, sometimes catering doesn't have greens. Sometimes you miss the catering. Sometimes you miss the backstage food. Sometimes it's too late after the show to go get food that you like. So if you just have a scoop of AG1s in your hotel room before you go to bed, or you're in the hotel room at night and you're starving and you want something healthy, boom, life changer. Right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with some convenient daily nutrition. That's all you need, one scoop in a cup every day. That's it. No need for a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health. This is it. I'm super psyched. And to make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit drinkag1.com/OLLC. That's drinkag1.com/OLLC. Take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. This is incredible. I love it. It's just basic greens. For me personally, this has changed my life tremendously. I'm not a junk food vegan. I don't eat a lot of fake meats, so I'm strictly greens. And this has been a wonderful, wonderful new addition to my life. So once again, visit drinkag1.com/OLLC. That's drinkag1.com/OLLC. Get 1 free year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. That's drinkag1.com/OLLC. Yo, Liquid Death, thank you so much for hydrating all my guests, taking care of me and my family and my friends. Love your water, love your brand, love what you stand for, love what you give back to the community. If you want to learn more about Liquid Death and how it started, listen to episode 115. With the co-founder, owner, and creator of Liquid Death, Mike Cesario. Just a punk rock skateboarding kid from Delaware with a dream. It's an incredible story, incredible journey. So if you go liquiddeath.com/Toby, you get free shipping on any items you order from liquiddeath.com. And if you want to get water, Liquid Death water, go to amazon.com. But for merchandise and other things that's not water, go to liquiddeath.com/Toby and get free shipping. Thank you so much, Liquid Death. Death to plastic, murder your thirst, stay hydrated. You know H2O saves lives. Welcome to the One Life One Chance podcast. I'm your host, Toby Morse. Today I have a very special guest in my house, Mr. Norman Brannon. Thank you for being here, man.
Thank you. We made it.
You fucking made it. We were talking about this for a while, and I'm glad to have you in my kitchen. I was trying to figure out when we met, what year it could have been, or where, or how, or somewhere in the world of music and the scene, I guess, right?
Yeah, honestly, I don't remember either. I feel like I was thinking about how I was talking to Tim Bohr,
Yes.
who books Thursday, and he was saying how he asked me how old I was, and he goes, "It just feels like you've always been around."
Yeah, totally.
And I was like, I guess. I mean, I came in pretty young.
Yeah. Were you born in New York?
Yeah, I grew up in Queens.
Nice. What part of Queens?
I grew up in Woodside.
I know Woodside, yeah.
Yeah, and then so right before high school, my family moved to Long Island, and I moved there for maybe 2.5 years before I dropped out of school and was like, I can't live here.
Yeah. Long Island.
Yeah, I mean,
What part of Long Island was
I know
it?
Long
It's
Island's
so
like a big
different.
thing now, like hardcore, they have so much pride. But
Yeah.
at the time, it was like 1988, 89, I think it was. And I mean, especially where my parents moved. They moved to a town called Massapequa.
Yeah, I know that. Yeah.
And so like at that time, Massapequa was very affluent. And that's one of the reasons why they moved there, actually, because we were not affluent and they were looking to send us to better schools. And someone who worked with my dad told him, like, schools out there, the public schools are better than the private schools in the city. So they were like, we'll find a cheap rental and you'll go to these fucking sick schools. And sure enough, like my first day of school, literally someone calls me N-word. I was the first non-white person to walk into that high school ever.
Wow. Holy shit.
And I punched him in the face.
You did?
I got suspended my first day. And
wow.
And that sort of set the tone. I was sort of like, I fucking hate this place,
What grade was that?
Probably 8th grade. Something
Holy
like that.
shit.
Yeah. And at that point I was already I'd already started going to shows. And so like I kind of got like, I also, on top of not being white, I think I was also a skinhead. So people were like,
wow,
what is this dude's deal? Like, like walking with oxblood docs and like,
wow,
they didn't understand it because at that point, I don't even know that Geraldo had aired yet.
Ooh.
Like, I think that was still
game changer.
Yeah. So they still were sort of like trying to suss me out.
Wow, man. Do you have siblings?
I have 2 older brothers. Yeah.
Were they into the same stuff?
My one older brother, the middle one, he actually, I would say like he inadvertently got me into punk. He got into punk for like literally 15 minutes. Like he saw Sham 69 at CB's or something one night, and he had met some dudes that took him there. But then like really quickly he was just like, oh, I'm not interested, because he was a guitar player and he was more into like shredding.
Okay.
And punk's not shredding.
Yeah.
So at least not at that time.
Yeah.
So but the friends that he made during that 15-minute period would still come around every now and then, and they had mixtapes that they would always have. And I started I remember one guy specifically would lend me tapes, and I would make tapes of his tapes, and like that was sort of the first things I heard. I mean, I remember the tapes had Discharge, and that was the first time I heard Misfits and like Stiff Little Fingers and all that stuff. So that was like I'd say like when I really started digging in.
Yeah. What were we listening to before that?
I mean, so I've always been very Catholic in my tastes. Like I've always, like even back then, I'd say like the 3 things that I was listening to in the mid 80s were like new wave,
Yep.
metal, and hip hop.
Okay.
And so like those were, I don't think I had any more or less of an allegiance to any of them at that time. Punk was sort of like, different from those things in the sense that like there was this attached community.
Yes.
And when we lived in Woodside, so I lived across the street from this park, Windmuller Park. And so there was this area of the park that my family, for whatever reason, we always called the back of the park. And my parents were always like, don't go to the back of the park. The back of the park is where like they had all the little chess tables.
Oh, yeah.
But nobody played chess. It was just where hoodlums hung out. And the hoodlums that lived in Woodside was this punk gang called ZOW, Zombies of Woodside.
Wow.
And Zombies of Woodside at that time, they were sort of like, I mean, we knew who they were because they were punk and they looked different than everybody else.
Yeah.
They also, they graffitied all the places up. And it was funny because like their logo, they would put like swastikas in the O, but they weren't even all white. They weren't Nazi at all. It was just, yeah, exactly. Yeah. It was like shock value shit. But there was one guy in particular that I remember meeting when I was like very little. And he always like, he used to call me little man. And like, he was very just affectionate with me for some reason. I think he saw something about me in him.
Yeah.
And so we just sort of like became like not friends, but like we were sort of, you know, he would always ask me how I was doing. Like I'd see him around the park or whatever. And so I had this like affection for punk people even before I really knew what punk was. Like,
Yeah.
And so when I finally heard the music, I was sort of like, okay, I get this.
Yeah. Were you a skater too?
No, I have no coordination. No. I don't know how I play guitar.
So you didn't do sports in school or nothing?
Never.
Damn.
Never. I mean, like skating. Here's the thing about skating too. Like to really skate, you kind of have to have like no fear.
Yeah.
And I don't have that. Like every time I get on that board, I'm like, I'm gonna kill myself.
Yeah. So how were you in school?
I was I mean, up until we moved, I was actually like a straight A.
Wow.
Like I was very much I was an overachiever, but I sort of credit this to what in the gay community we call best little boy in the world syndrome.
Okay.
and this comes from a book that was written originally. It was like an anonymous book called The Best Little Boy in the World. Later it came out, the guy who wrote it came out as this guy Andrew Tobias, who I think became like the treasurer of the US treasurer under Clinton at one point. Like,
wow.
But in the 80s he wrote this book, and it was kind of talking about how he used overachieving to sort of deflect. So, you know, when people would be like, well, why aren't you dating anyone? Oh, I'm just so busy.
Oh, yeah. Schoolwork.
Yeah.
Homework, yeah. Wow.
Things like that. And also, like, you feel like shit about yourself all the time when you're in the closet. So being the best little boy in the world gives you some validation, makes you feel valuable, gives you some worthiness. And I definitely think that I was carrying that cross very early in life.
Yeah. So how old were you when you realized?
Honestly, I think I knew when I was like 5.
Wow.
I'm pretty sure. Like there was never a doubt in my mind. It wasn't, but that would give you like some insight as to how long I'd been tortured about it, because
yeah,
I grew up in a Pentecostal family. Like not just a Pentecostal family, a Latin Pentecostal family, which is like fucking real.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like I mean, like I pretty much knew about gay people for as long as I could remember. I knew they were evil, they were sinners, they were fucking perverts, they were child molesters. These were all the things that I had been told for as long as I can remember.
Yeah.
And but I remember like I knew, and even like I talk about this now, and I'd really like to sort of get some sort of confirmation about this. I've tried to do some research, but when I was in 2nd grade, I had a teacher, Mr. Warnken, and all I remember about meeting him and talking to him and sort of like being his student was that like, I feel like we're part of the same tribe. Like it was that kind of feeling. I felt this deep, deep connection to him where I just really was just like, whatever he is, I am. Mm-hmm. If I show you a picture of Mr. Warnken today and say, you know, this picture was from 1982 or whenever I was in his class, you'd be like, dude, this looks like a Fire Island picture. Or like, you know what I mean? Like, yeah. I mean, the mustache, like, you know, I mean, he was gay. Mm-hmm. And I actually at one point tried to find him. And I unfortunately found his obituary.
Oh, wow.
And it wasn't that long after I was in his class and he, you know, quote unquote, died of cancer. And I was sort of like, I'm dubious.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like I don't believe that.
How old was he when he died? Do you know? Pretty young. Huh?
He was young. Yeah.
So you're trying to find out, maybe?
Yeah.
Interesting.
I mean, I saved his obituary, so it's like I have names of relatives and stuff like that. I kind of want to know, but who knows? It's like, you know, at that time, maybe he wasn't even out to them. You know, but I know there's like literally no doubt in my mind. And I feel like that's sort of like tribalism. I mean, it's sort of like the same in hardcore. Like when you meet people and you just know, you're like, yeah, you're fucking one of us.
Yeah. And you met some people like that in the scene?
I mean, like, I mean, I'd say like, so what's interesting,
Because it's such a I know it's like there's also like this whole like kind of macho, especially the New York scene, very tough, very street. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
Well, so when I got into hardcore though, it's tough because I don't want to like be like, yo, I used hardcore. But but on some level, hardcore was like the best closet I could find. You know, like it really was. Like when I found like skinheads, I was like, yo, this style's dope.
it is.
And like, and so one of the dudes that befriended my brother during that 15 minutes, he was very, you know, it's funny. Like when I look back on this now, it sounds crazy, but it's like, you can't, if you weren't in the hardcore scene in the 80s, if you weren't around skinheads in the 80s, some of this stuff is really difficult to understand.
Yeah.
Like, because even amongst people that you and I were probably friends with, there were people who weren't that, like they might have been repping white pride or like, you know, shit like that. Like they might have been doing, you know, you come from like DC area and stuff. I'm always talking about the lefty dilemma, right? Like,
with the Swazi earring.
Yeah, where you're just like, how? What?
Yeah.
And so there were a lot of people where it was just like the waters between sort of like, yeah, there were the sharps and yeah, there were the Nazis. But then there was that whole crowd in between, which was most of the skinheads really. And they were questionable. A lot of people were a little bit questionable back then.
Yeah. Did you want to come out like when you were young, or just were you too scared?
Definitely scared. I mean, I was, especially as a skinhead, and in the 80s, I was actually also like very homophobic. Like, so this was just like
you
something.
Were?
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, because I hated myself.
Yeah.
And also like, you know, it's
and
funny.
You were raised to hate. You raised it was bad. Yeah.
Absolutely. And so at that time, again, like if you're not there, this is difficult to understand, especially like New York hardcore, but people fucking gay bashed. People absolutely, that was a thing that was socially acceptable in the scene. Like nobody was like, you know, I never heard anybody defend gay people when they were like, yo, you want to go fag bash or something like that. Like it was never heard a damn thing.
I heard crazy stories in DC of that happening a lot too, man.
Yeah.
It's scary, man.
With Lefty.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
So it was like, it was a known fact to me that coming out was not just, you know, difficult from a social perspective, but it was also a safety issue.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I always talk about like when Mike Bullshit came out, because that was like a watershed moment, I feel like. And the way he did it, I remember just being like, this is like super, like in my head, I never said this out loud. It was classy because like, you know, he basically just put out an issue of Bullshit Monthly one week. And it was like, you know, you look at the masthead and it said Bullshit Monthly is proudly gay owned and operated. And I was like, I remember getting that issue and just looking at it and staring at it for like an hour and just being like, oh my God, I can't believe this dude just did that.
Yeah. It's pretty fucking punk, actually.
Yeah. And this was at the time too, where, like I remember he was protesting outside of a Bad Brains show during the Quickness tour. And he was like, you know, Bad Brains are anti-gay, fuck them. You know, and I was just like, yo, that's bold. Like,
yeah,
you know, at that time, again, like I felt like he was on like a one-man crusade, you know, and it's not like people shunned him. Like people were very cool about it ultimately, but I also heard a lot of people talk shit behind his back.
Yeah.
And I just didn't want to be that. I thought he was blowing up my spot. And so like I was talking shit, you know, like I was saying homophobic shit about him. And we've talked about this since, you know, like it's.
Wasn't the singer for MDC? MDC singer?
You know what? And I think so, but I don't.
I'm not 100% on that. But.
Yeah, but I also like that was a band that like New York's very insular, right?
It is.
Like we sort of like I only cared about New York shit.
Not till later on. I definitely. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Wow. So you were friends with Mike Bullshit too?
So we became friends as sort of adversaries, quote unquote. But really, I was using him as a way to sort of understand myself.
Gotcha.
So we would have these like debates and like, you know, I was coming from this like homophobic standpoint of like basically saying all the things that I was raised to believe, all the things that, in the 80s that society sort of had reinforced.
Yeah.
So it wasn't necessarily even that it wasn't completely just the Latin Pentecostal homophobia. But, you know, again, if you're in the 80s, you're in Jerry Falwell, Jimmy Swaggart, The Moral Majority. You know, you're looking at an entire system of church, government, the legal system. Everyone is against you.
Yeah.
So this was, you know, what do you do when like literally your family, your government, your church, like every system that's available to you, the music you love, literally everything is against you. You know, at that point, like I remember there was like in that band In Your Face, you know, they had
from Long Island.
Yeah, they had a demo, and the opening track to the demo was this like intro mosh part called Faggot Stomp. And yeah, you know, so it was like this was acceptable.
This shit would never fly right now, man.
No.
It's crazy to me because for me, punk and hardcore was like, maybe I'm just naive, living in a little weird PMA bubble. Always for me, it was this positive community. Everyone's equal. We all come from crazy backgrounds and childhoods, and we all go to this place and we all sing along to this music, and we're all like a family under one roof. That was my vision of what I got from hardcore. Like everyone's accepted. It doesn't fucking matter, man. But I know it's. And I wonder if that was just. And it wasn't just New York, because we're saying it was DC. Probably everywhere else it was a really. Yeah, man, it's crazy. Man,
I mean, maybe DC had some sort of extra effect on you, because I feel like
later on it was more like
New York felt very gatekeeper. It very much felt like you had to like earn your spot. And
CB's on the Bowery.
Yeah, you know, like and I fucking worked hard to earn my spot.
You really tried.
Because I was a fucking little kid, right? Like I always say, like I'm fucking 1 year younger than Sammy and 1 year older than Freddie. So I'm in this zone of like, you know, at that time we're all children basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, but as a child, you want to impress the older kids.
Were you acting tough and stuff?
Yeah, 100%. I was getting into fights. I was doing the whole shit.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Like
just over like trying to be super. Yeah, it's crazy.
I wanted to impress the older kids. And also like, again, it was sort of a safety concern. It was just sort of, if people are like, okay, yeah, like he can take care of himself, then it was sort of like, no one would fuck with you. You're cool.
Yeah. Plus you had your crew of guys around you and stuff, those older guys. And what did your parents think about like you being a skin and going to shows? And
you know, they were sort of oblivious. I always joked that like I was able to get into hardcore so young because my parents didn't give a shit. So like, you know, I honestly feel like I don't think they truly even understood until like maybe there was this point in like 1989 where like my dad was like, "Where do you go every weekend?"
Every Sunday.
And I was like, "Oh, I hang out on the Bowery." And my dad was just like, "What?"
Different time too back then.
Right. Like, I mean, it was literally just all flop houses and CBs and the bodega across the street.
Yeah. He's like, "What the hell?"
So he was like really, and I was like, "Oh, it's fine. It's fine." And he was just like, "Oh my God, what the fuck are you doing?"
But like, were you like getting in trouble or arrested? You weren't a bad kid. Like,
no, I did get taken home by the cops only once, just from graffiti.
Oh yeah.
I'm a good kid.
What was your tag name? What was your name?
I wrote two things: Aura and Mecca. MECHA.
So you were doing graffiti, you were doing everything.
Yeah, like that was, I mean, but the graffiti thing was definitely just like, dude, you grew up in Queens. Of course you're going to do graffiti.
Yeah. But it wasn't affecting your grades and anything like that?
No, I was still like A+ all the way through. But when I did, so in basically my last year of school before I dropped out, I completely it went from A to F immediately because I just stopped.
Yeah.
I would go into classes and just go to sleep. At that point, like, all I wanted was to leave Long Island and go back to the city. And so I started doing some research, and I found out that when you're 16 years old, at least at that time in New York, you could stop going to school and they can't force you. Like there was like this weird,
crazy.
It wasn't, there was like this weird thing. And so I would refuse to wake up. Like my mom would be like, "Get up, you gotta go to no." And it just completely, until finally the school called and was like, "Look, either he needs to come back or you need to sign him out." And so I had this long drawn out fight with my mom, and then she was like, and I was like, look, you're not going to get me to go back. And then she was like, well, you're not going to live here if you do. And I was like, that's perfect.
Were you like 16, 17?
16. So like basically as soon as I turned 16, it was like
out.
I was out. And so
wow.
she signed me out, and I always remember this day because I feel like this day actually changed my life in a lot of ways. Like, we went to the school, my guidance counselor was there, and I had talked to my guidance counselor. She knew my deal. Like, she was like, you're smart. You're not being challenged here. Like, you're not being socially nourished here. Like, I had no friends. Like, I had one friend. He was the security guard who was also a skinhead.
Wow. Wow.
And I somewhat talked to this girl who showed up into class once with a Gorilla Biscuits t-shirt. And I was like, are you into Gorilla Biscuits? And she was like, nah, it's just my sister's t-shirt. I just grabbed it off the floor or whatever. And I was like, that's cool. And I was like, close enough.
Yeah. Did your counselor know you were gay?
No, nobody knew at that time. And so like, I walked in and we signed out, and my mom started crying. She put on this big show, and she's like, oh, like, because, okay, to be generous, my parents are immigrants, and they very much came here with the whole American dream. And this was not in the cards for their American dream for me. Yeah. And so I get it. Like, it still felt a little maudlin, but I was like, okay. And
sun shaved down with like boots on and shit.
Exactly. And so she's crying. She's holding the pen. It literally just looks like a scene out of a movie.
Wow.
And my guidance counselor literally just grabs, she grabs her hand as she's signing the papers, and she's like, look at me. And my mom looks up, and my guidance counselor literally says to her, do you know him?
Wow.
And my mom was completely taken aback. And my guidance counselor was like, he's going to be fine.
Wow.
And I was like, holy shit.
That's amazing.
And, and I talked to her afterwards, and she was, my guidance counselor. And, she said that. She just sort of reiterated the point. She's like, you're really smart. Whatever you decide to do, you're going to be fine. And it really, like, that affected me, because I didn't feel like I'm walking out into like nothingness. I really did feel like I'm going to figure this out.
Yeah. And you weren't playing guitar or nothing then?
No, just like, in my bedroom. Like, drums were my first instrument.
Okay.
And
are you good at drums?
I don't think so. but when I first, so Massapequa, interestingly enough, was the site of my first band. And my first band I played drums in, I was a freshman in high school. Okay. And the singer of my first band was Rob Vitale.
No way.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so Rob was a senior. He was in my brother's grade. And he saw me walking around, and he was just like, who the fuck is this skinhead walking around Massapequa? Yeah. And we just started talking, and wow. And he was like, I want to sing for a band. And I was like, well, I play drums, and we put together this really bad band. Wow. We called it Positive Outlook, and we were terrible. And I think I actually quit before our first show. Oh, shit. And I don't even know if they played many shows past that, but I was just like, yeah, this is not for me.
Damn, what a singer, man, Rob, man.
Yeah.
What a
but
voice.
even back then, he knew how to sing. He knew how to project. He knew how to like, it was a very unique voice for a hardcore band. And so it was like when he came out later, in Black Train Jack and started doing it, I was really like, super proud and like.
Yeah, was it like a church or opera singer or something?
Yeah, I think it was opera.
Classically trained or.
Yeah.
Rest in peace, Rob Vitale, man. That was heavy, man. That was hard.
Yeah.
Damn, that's crazy. You had a band with him, though. Wow.
Yeah, that was probably in 88 even.
So then when you quit, do you have a job at that point when you quit school or no?
So I quit and was basically couch surfing. I went back to the city and just sort of kind of just was random until I decided, fuck it, I'm going to move into a temple. And so I moved into the Philadelphia temple.
Wow. Was that through like 108 or Shelter? Those bands inspired you?
Through Ray. Like
Were you straight edge too at the time?
Yeah, I'd been straight edge the whole time. And then
I love how you're holding your headphones because your hair is so perfect. You have
know.
perfect hair, man. you have a great hairline, by the way. Anyway,
Thank you. No, I'd met Ray in like maybe 89. And you know, when you're a fucking young kid meeting Ray Cappo in 1989, it's
man.
just like, holy shit.
I know, man.
And it's crazy to me now because when I think about it, it's like, Ray's not even that much older than me, but I thought he was like Yoda.
Same.
You know? And
all those guys seem way much older, man.
Yeah. And so so we met, and at that point he was already into Krishna and he was already doing the thing. And I had first went to a temple maybe like a year before that, largely because I just wanted Krishna beads. Like
They were cool.
Yeah, like all those Chromax pictures, and I was like, that's dope. I want that.
Yeah, it was like a style, yeah.
Yeah. So I went to the first time I went to a temple was literally just to get the beads. This was like 88. And then Ray would start talking, to me, and like he'd tell me stuff, and I was always like, oh, this really, that makes sense. That makes sense. That makes sense. It was like very like slow, but I was sort of like, like I don't know if I want to move into this whole thing.
Yeah.
And then in May of 1990, my best friend died in a car accident. And I was like, that was like my first real brush with mortality, where I was really like, okay, like we're going to die.
Yeah.
And he was, I was 16, he was 18. It was very like, okay, shit, like, what am I doing with my life? It's one of those come to Jesus moments.
Yeah.
And I came to Krishna.
Yeah. It was perfect timing for your life. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I pretty much, maybe like, it took some time, maybe like 10 months or something after that. And then I was just like, okay, I'm going to do this. And at that point, I had started my first, I'd say, real band, which was Fountainhead. Mm-hmm. And Bill, who was the singer of Fountainhead, also passed, but maybe that's bad. It's a bad omen for singers in my band, but wow. But Bill had moved into the temple, and he was like, you should definitely come, and I was like, okay. And then of course, and Ray was absolutely egging me on. Ray had been egging me on to drop out of high school for fucking a long time. Wow. And I mean, it's funny because I've talked about it with him recently, and he was just like, but you don't regret it, right? It was like still like the best thing you ever did.
Wow.
And I was like, I don't regret it at all. Like, yeah, it started my life. So
were you vegetarian already too?
Yeah. I went vegetarian in 88, straight edge, and by like 87 for sure.
It's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Are you still vegetarian?
I am.
How about edge?
No, but I lasted till about 2004.
Wow, that's good. That's a good run.
But I've never. Also, it's funny. Like I'm still very much one of those people who like I've never been drunk. Like I don't really get drunk. Like I might get a little buzz, but like I barely drink.
What's your drink of choice?
Usually like wine, honestly.
Yeah, true,
it's very like I'm a very casual about it. I've never smoked pot. I've never done a drug.
Oh wow.
I don't like. Yeah, that's pretty much as unedged as I am. I have wine with dinner.
Yeah. So, are you in contact with your parents when all of a sudden you're living in a Christian temple? Do they know where you're at?
Yes.
There's no phones back then, really.
They did know, and I tried to maintain contact with them because I didn't want them to think that I just joined some fucking crazy cult. Yeah. Or something like that. And
see you at the airport and stuff.
Right. I mean, like, and to them, anything that wasn't Christianity was most likely a cult anyway.
Straight edge probably was too, or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I tried to keep in touch, but I think when I consciously decided to stop keeping in touch was when, so I came back to visit one weekend. And I was staying at the house, and it was a Sunday morning, and they all went to church, and I stayed home, and the phone rings, and I answer the phone, and it's my oldest brother, who is 10 years older than me. So like I barely have a relationship with him, but, so he's like, oh my God, how are you doing? Like, what are you doing there? And I was like, oh, I'm just home visiting for the weekend. And he's like, great. That's great. How's college?
Wow.
And I was like, what do you mean? And he was like, Mom said you went away to college? And I was like,
You never told her that, right? No.
No.
Wow.
She completely was just so embarrassed that she
Oh.
lied to my own brother about where I was. And so I told him the truth. He was like, wow, okay. But he was chill. And basically like, and at this point, again, remember, like I'm still a kid.
I know.
So she comes home and I fucking went ballistic. And I was like, you fucking lied about me to my own brother. Fuck you. Like I was going, it was definitely not saintly Krishna talk. I was upset.
Do you have that? What is the proper name for the Krishna tail thing? Do you have that?
Sika.
You have that at the time?
I did. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. So
you screaming at your mom.
I was livid, but I mean, like I have this long-standing antagonistic relationship with my mom that pretty much started from the beginning. My first memory of my mother is her telling me the only reason I had you is because I wanted a girl.
Wow, dude.
So it's like she was basically like telling me to fuck off.
That's horrible.
And so we had that relationship all the way through. And then when that happened, I was like, fuck this. Like, I can't do this anymore. And like, we didn't talk for probably a year more after that.
What about your dad? Were you talking to him?
My dad sort of like, unfortunately, I'd say he's like the baby with the bathwater. Like he kind of, is his wife. Like he kind of sided with her all the time.
Flow, yeah.
But in this sort of like soft, resigned kind of way where I sort of felt like, I wanted to be like, come on, man.
Yeah.
Say something.
Yeah, stand up for yourself.
But he never stood up for himself. He never stood up for me. And so it was like, I never felt resentful towards him. Maybe at some point I did, but like as an adult at this point in my life, I don't feel any sort of misgivings. I'm sort of like, she was a lot.
Yeah.
And
Are they both still around?
No, they're both dead.
Wow.
Yeah. But I honestly, so I stopped talking to them in 2003 and they pretty much cut the cord on me. And then I had this one blowout conversation with my mother basically where it was the conversation where I came out to her, where I sort of like also.
How old were you then when you came with your mom?
Like 29 or 30.
Okay.
Something like that. And I think I only came out to them then at that point was because like we had this relationship, but it was completely fake. And, she'd call and be like, how are you? And I'd be like, fine. It was like, nobody,
Yeah.
I don't need that. I don't want that. I want real relationships. But our relationship was already fucked from years of physical, mental, psychological, emotional abuse that like I couldn't process. We had to start over.
Yeah.
And so we had this conversation where it was like the start over conversation. And I basically just, I told her everything. I was like, it was like this is your life kind of thing where I was like,
this is who your son is.
And also this is who you are.
Yeah.
She never acknowledged up until that point all of the shit that she put me through. She never acknowledged beating the shit out of me every day until I was like 12 years old and old enough to fight back.
Wow.
Like it was literally, there was no acknowledgement whatsoever. And so for me, and I'd worked this out beforehand with my therapist.
Okay.
I was like, for me, I just needed to hear her acknowledge that this happened.
Yes.
I didn't want a fucking apology. I didn't care. Like, just acknowledge that it happened. And then maybe we can have an adult relationship. And so we got to that place where she acknowledged it. After some hedging, it went from, well, that didn't quite happen that way to, well, it's not as bad as you say to, okay. It was like the stages of grief.
I feel like I think parents have like a selective memory on the way things were growing up.
Sure.
Because I have some things in my mom, like her forgetting she kicked me out, just different things with her that I try to bring them up. She doesn't remember, or it was a different way to her. It's interesting.
Yeah. And growing up, I tried so hard to be empathetic to all of the ways in which these things may have happened. I was always like, my parents were extremely old by the time I came around. Like when she said that the only reason she had me is because she wanted a girl, part of the reason was that she was also old. She was like 45 when she had me.
Okay.
And, you know, the doctors basically said like I was a health risk to her. So, you know, she took that risk and then boom.
Yeah.
So it was like, I understood, one, that she's much older than me. Two, that she comes from a different culture and background. Like, I didn't know what it was like in Colombia. Like, I didn't know how she was raised, you know, like I was just like, oh, she's from a different generation. She's from a different culture.
You keep giving her excuses.
Yeah, exactly. It was just nonstop excuses. And it got to a point where, actually, I know the exact point when the excuses stopped was when my godchild came into the world. And I remember there was a time in Chicago where they drew on my couch with a marker. And I was in the shower and I came out and I saw like my couch like covered in Sharpie. And I remember looking at them and being like, and they were so scared, you know, and I was just like, it's okay. Don't worry about it. You know, and I was like, and I went into my room and I got dressed, and as I was getting dressed, I remember, you know, the first thought was sort of like whimsical. It was like, oh my God, my mother would have beat the fucking shit out of me.
Yeah.
And then the second thought was, wow, I could not imagine ever laying a hand on a child. And now I have this real child in front of me. And like the idea of my physical force exerted on that child was insane to me. And to be like, my mother used to fucking whip me, beat me with fucking wooden clogs, like just fucking whatever she could get her hands on, or just straight up punch me with her fists. Like, all of a sudden, all the excuses ended, and it was like, you know what? This is a total fucking issue of a lack of humanity.
Yeah.
This has nothing to do with culture or generation or anything. Like, this is a lack of humanity. You cannot do that shit. And so I think like we had that conversation. It was sort of like a very, you know, I thought it was going to end differently because I gave her this option, and I just said to her like, look, hey, we can do it like this. Like, I'm willing to like just forget the past. I'm willing to let go. All I ask of you is that from this point forward, we have a relationship that's based on unconditional love.
And honesty,
and I mean unconditional, period.
Yeah.
As we are. We'll figure it out. And I was like, if for some reason you can't do that or don't want to do that, that's up to you. But if that's the case, lose my number.
Wow.
Don't call me back. And, you know, her response to that, like in my mind, as a godparent, much less a freaking blood parent, I would never consider that. You know, I'd be like, yeah, no, let's work it out. 100%. I love you.
Yeah, you're a kid, yeah.
Yeah. But her response was, is that an ultimatum?
Wow.
And I was like, yo, if that's how you're going to take it, then fine. Yes, that's an ultimatum. It's up to you. You know, and that was it. And 6 months later, she never called back. And I was like, okay, fine. At this point, if you call me back, I'm going to be like, fuck you. So I'm changing my number. I went out and literally within the next week called up a lawyer, started getting paperwork to change my name. And, you know, that was the end of that. That was the end of that.
Holy shit, man.
So.
You kept in touch with your brothers and stuff?
Nope.
Wow.
Completely, you
no,
know.
Total family cut off then.
Completely done. Yeah. And I mean, I will say this, like, so because my last point of contact was her, and because I know now, as I've told you, that she has a history of lying to my family members about me. I don't know what she told them. They may think like, she may have been like, I mean, this sounds crazy, but I don't think it's crazy to be like, you know, she may have been like, oh, he's got AIDS or something, you know, like I could see her making up some wild shit that, you know, would cut me off from them. I will say this. So the only reason I know that they're dead, my parents, is that I Googled their obituaries.
No fucking way.
It was the only way. I was just curious one day, and I was like, this has to exist online if something happened.
My parents still alive.
Yeah, and I found this website that actually, this is a really fucking morbid website, but it actually like takes pictures of people's tombstones.
Okay.
And like, so I have a picture of my mother's tombstone.
Holy shit.
That I saved, and it was really, yeah, it was just sort of like one of those things where you're like, wow, like there wasn't any grieving. Like I didn't cry. I wasn't like, I feel like the grieving all happened in 2003. I was like, prepared for them to never see them again, basically. But to see that, you know, that was very real.
Yeah.
And so the biggest sort of regret, and I don't know if it's a regret because I had no control over this, but the biggest sort of thing that I'm like, oh, that sucks, is that my mother died first. And there was like a 2-year window or something before my dad died. And I really would have liked to have a conversation with him man to man, like kind of like, you know, right. Like just to, I really wish that opportunity had presented itself, but clearly like whatever she told them, it was enough for them to not even try to reach out to me to let me know.
It's crazy, man. So, yeah, it's unreal, man.
Yeah.
Or the dad even trying to reach out, but obviously we knew your dad was just like whatever she says.
Right.
Wow.
And again, like I don't know what she said. She may have said to them, he said, you're all fucking awful people and he never wants to talk to us again. You know, like, I don't know. Yeah. So I've had this thing in my mind where I wanted to like maybe reach out to my oldest brother, the one that I don't have a relationship with. I know where he is. I found him online.
Yeah.
He lives in Denver. Like, I was just in Denver. But like, you know, it's that thing of just like, do I really want to open this wound up? Like, I don't know. Like, is this really going to provide any closure? But I'm such a fucking curious dude. Like, curiosity gets me into trouble, man.
Yeah, but it is your brother. It'd be nice to have a conversation, see what he was told, where you went, what happened. That's fucking insane, dude.
Yeah.
You got family out there. It's like, it's heavy, man.
I think the religious part complicates it, though, because I also know because of social media that both of my brothers are like still very super religious. Okay. Super Christian. And so they may just be like, you know, fuck you, you gay devil. Yeah. I don't even know. Do I want to put myself through that? I don't know.
I wonder if they checked out your band. I'm sure they checked out your band and what you're up to. They had to be looking up you.
Yeah, you would think. I mean, obviously, I looked them up, and you know. So
they never saw any of your bands playing none of that stuff.
No.
Wow, man.
Nothing. So it's been a little bit wild. Like I definitely, you know, when I changed my name and like I made a will and power of attorney, I did all this paperwork because basically I was also like, I don't want to be in a situation where something happens and I am in a hospital or I die and then all of a sudden
they have any power over you or anything.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, so I had to like make all this paperwork that basically is like no blood relative can claim anything on this person.
Wow, dude.
So
it's fucking intense, man.
Yeah.
That is fucking crazy, man. So now you're just out in the world. You don't. You're not talking to your family. You're playing music. You're just living.
That's it. That's it.
And you never came out. You obviously came out before you told your parents, right?
Yeah. I mean, I was out to my friends, and it's weird. Like even coming out is like a.
Did your friends like we already knew?
I think everybody knew. Nobody was like, what?
Yeah.
It wasn't like I was out like, you know, sleeping with girls or anything like that. Yeah. You know, like I was very.
So you never did any girls growing up? Nothing?
I did in high school, like, yeah, but like not serious. You know, I was never like seriously on the hunt, you know, it was sort of just like, oh, okay, this girl's cool. Like we'll hang out.
And did you have boyfriends, like secret relationships that nobody knew about?
No, but that's because I'd taken vows of celibacy.
Oh yeah, for the Christians.
Yeah. So it was really
How
like
long?
So I joined in 91 formally, and then it wasn't until Texas broke up in the beginning of 1997.
Yeah.
And at that point I was in a really bad place in variety of ways. Like 1997 was a very dark year. I was obviously the band breaking up. I had so many feelings about that, and I was really just like fucked up. And then on top of that, it was like, you know, that thing of like, you're in a real, like, I've always had major depressive disorder. That's like since I was a child kind of thing. Like literally, I remember being a child and being severely depressed.
Yeah.
Which is, you know, could
Is that because you were hiding your sexuality?
I think there was partially like situational things, like, you know, my family life, my sexuality, like all those things. But then there's also this,
so many rules and pressures and fucking
right. There's also this neurological component, right? That I can't, you know, those things I can't fix.
Yeah.
But when you have major depressive disorder and you're in a severe depressive episode, and you have money in the bank, so you don't have to like work or have responsibilities or anything. Like 1997 was just the darkest year, because I literally would just like, I did two things that year. I sat in my bedroom, just like sleeping the days away, just completely fucking out of my mind, depressed. Or I'd go to the Pink Pony on Ludlow, and I would sit there and just drink coffee until I was like sweating out of my mind. And then I would just like walk around like a zombie, just walk around New York City, just like, you know, with headphones on, just like completely fucked out of my mind. Like I just was it was just so dark, and I was like very suicidal at that point. And the whole thing, and this was like, I would say the peak of when I realized like, okay, I've got to sort out this sexuality stuff. Like, and so that was when I was like, okay, the first thing I need to do is break my vow of celibacy.
How long were you celibate for? How many years?
I mean, I was at least 6.
What?
Something like, yeah.
And there's no masturbation, none of that stuff, right?
Wow.
I'm just saying that, like, that's part of the rules.
Theoretically.
That's part of the rules, though, yeah.
But I'd be on, like, nobody follows that.
Okay. I'm just wondering, like, not saying that's bad. That's no joke. 6 years. Wow,
yeah.
So now you're just like going to the bar, right? Whatever, drinking your coffee.
It was in New York at that time. There was a gay coffee shop called Big Cup.
Okay.
And that actually made the tail end of Big Cup. But I remember like going there in the closet, and just it was like such a relief to just sit there, because like, you know, I was still straight edge basically, so it was like going to the bars, like that wasn't gonna happen. But I was like, here's this place where I can drink coffee and just sort of be around, like I was happy honestly just being around gay people. And you know, even if
gay, straight edge, and Krishna.
I was already a mess because I had to untangle all these things that I'd created as a way to sort of buffer my sexuality, or I mean, like I said, it was all a tangled web. The other aspect of it is punk, skinhead, straight edge, Krishna, all these things to me, surrogate families.
Totally.
This is what I needed.
100%.
I needed to feel like people had my back, that I could protect other people, that, you know, there was this sense of connection and bonding that like was special and real. And all of those things to certain extents gave me that. Like, I feel like the Krishna thing, you know, my guru, he was like a father figure to me. Like I was, you know, I met him when I was 15, and, you know, he was the closest I ever got to having a dad, really, in my mind. And so like, it was so just messy. Everything. I'd created this fucking mess. That's basically what 1997 was reckoning the mess that I've made, and just being like, okay, you're in a place right now where you've got nothing holding you back. Band's gone, fucking fanzine's gone. Like, you've got no obligations to anyone. How are you going to live your life?
Yeah, this is just you now. You're alone in the world, man. Your family, you don't talk to your family, none of that stuff.
It's all done. And so what I did was, you know, I got out of that fucking fog, and I was just like, just super fucking impulsively was like, I'm moving to Chicago. And I called up Tim Kinsella, and I was like, what do you pay for rent? And he was like $200. And I was like, is that normal? And he was like, yeah, it's pretty normal. And I was like, all right, can I stay at your house this weekend? And he was like, yeah. So I go to Chicago, and in that weekend, find an apartment, put down my down payment, come back, book a truck. I get Rob Fish to fucking drive me to Chicago because I've never had a driver's license in my life. Still.
Wow. That's incredible.
And we drive to Chicago, and I just was like, all right, later. And I'm just going to have this new life. Because at that time, the only people I knew in Chicago were Tim and Kim Nolan.
Yeah.
Moon had already moved away.
Yeah.
So it was just like, that was it. And Kim at that point was moving to Mexico. So I was like, shit. I was like, all right, well, this is good. Total new start. Meeting all new people. And what's great too was that in Chicago, like Texas was big in Chicago, but the scene is so insular in Chicago. Like they give a shit about Chicago bands
really do.
That like they didn't give that much of a shit that I was in Texas as a reason, which was also a blessing.
Yeah.
And then I also made this conscious decision. I was like, all right, I want to explore house music more. This was something that like I'd been exploring a little bit in New York City.
Yeah.
And it felt closer to where I needed to be because it was so queer friendly. And like, I was like, okay, I mean, not just queer friendly. I mean, it was queer people invented it. So it was like, all right, this feels like it's a part of my culture.
Yeah.
Let me really dive deep into this a little bit. And I got a job at Gramophone Records, which is like considered a legendary record store in house music, like ground zero for Chicago house.
Cool.
And I started working there, and I feel like that's where like I just finally started to get my shit together.
Yeah, you could be free and be yourself too. Like you're not the New York scene anymore. You're not Christian no more, right?
Yeah.
You're away from your family, away from New York. You're out. You're being yourself. It's beautiful, man. It's like a rebirth. It
was, and it still took years to get to a place of like feeling completely like myself and not like a part of all these decisions that I made under duress.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, that's not to say like, I don't want to like talk down on those things that got me through.
Yeah.
Right. But like, there was a conscious element there. And I think there's always a conscious element there. Like I said this to Joe Hardcore when I did his podcast, where I was just saying like, the thing about hardcore that really fully got me was that I felt like everyone had a story.
Yes.
Everyone, and I would say like my joke for a long time in the hardcore scene was like, what fucked you up to get here?
It's true.
And everyone had an answer.
Yeah. You found like a father figure like in the Christian world, or people found father figures like Kevin Seconds was like my dad. You know what I mean? I never even knew the guy, but all his lyrics and everything. Man Enough to Care. If you know that song.
Yeah.
I make those lyrics incredible. Just like that, E. Mackay and all the different people we got to see and like look up to became father figures, man.
I mean, it's funny to mention Kevin Seconds too, because like I just did, they interviewed me for the liner notes of the Walk Together, Rock Together reissue.
Nice.
And they wanted to, I knew right away when they asked me, I was like, they're going to ask me about Regress No Way. And, and so like, when I was talking about it, they were like, so what did you feel? Like, did you know you were gay when you first heard that song, or like, whatever? And I was like, honestly, I was like, my first reaction to that song was like, yo, you're blowing up my spot. Like, I kind of was just like, I can't like this song too much. You know what I mean? Because like people are going to be like, why you like that song?
But how cool is it that 7 Seconds were right about those things back then? Nobody was talking about those things.
So amazing. I mean, honestly, who talks about it since?
Nobody.
Especially not in such a forceful, literal way. Like that, the lyrics to that song are like completely non-ambiguous. It's so, like it completely, it put me in a place where I at least felt like, okay, like my current configuration of hardcore that I'm in New York in the 80s, maybe it's not the most gay friendly place to be.
Yeah.
But I know that this exists somewhere.
Yeah, man.
And that song I think had a huge part of like me at least sort of being able to be like, to justify where I was.
Yeah. And even men have to care. Like Daddy always told you, do it like a man. Never get too friendly. Someone understand that shit too about like having like an over manly tough. You got to play sports. You got to do this. You got to just everything about that song. I don't know why it connected to me as a kid because I didn't really have a dad, but that was instilled in me at a young age to be like that, and that changed me as far as like 7 seconds opened my mind to everything. You know what I mean? Being sensitive, all that stuff. But that song, Man Enough to Care, and like Not Just Boys Fun, Regrets No Way. It's like incredible, man.
That was, I mean, 7 Seconds were literally the second hardcore band I ever saw. Wow. So it was like Crumbsuckers was first. Okay.
Crumbsuckers is 7 seconds.
Yeah, but then 7 Seconds, and so like they had a huge impact on me, and not just from the lyrical content, but also musically, because they were just ahead of the game. Like, I mean, fuck, like my entire life is basically based on melodic hardcore. Yeah, 100%. And it was like, to me, that was like the model.
Yeah, 100%. My fave. Minor Threat, obviously. Gorilla Biscuits later on for melody and positivity and animal rights stuff. And yeah, were you a big Judge fan too?
I liked Judge. I mean, it was definitely like...
It was too hard for me back then.
Like, it's weird. I liked... Like, you know how, I don't know if your friends use the same terminology. I'm always like, I like ignorant shit.
People say that Bringing It Down is a straight edge Age of Quarrel.
Interesting. I mean, so here's the thing. I mean, I liked Bringing It Down and I liked Judge, but at that point, I wasn't crazy about metal.
Me either, man.
So like, that felt a little too metal to me. The 7-inch to me was like, I was like, yeah, this is fucking the shit.
Great.
Loved it.
Perfect.
Yeah. But the metal thing at that point, like, I kind of had to like grow into that because at the time, and it was also like that time where like a lot of things were changing, and sort of like I remember hearing the bold 7-inch on Crucial Chaos for the first time and being like, oh, I don't know about this.
Yeah.
But now in retrospect, I'm like, oh, this actually like paved some ways, totally. Like it did some things.
Like think about the second Uniform Choice album.
I'm still not so sure about that.
I know, but it's just totally opposite. The other day I listened to the first one, which is incredible.
Right.
I didn't realize how much of a Minor Threat bite it is. No disrespect, but just some of the song titles, everything. But then, like, the second album, Staring Into the Sun, like a total different band. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Man.
I mean, I feel like... But here's the thing. So, like, I give credit to those bands, whether or not their experiments were successful or not, or somewhere in between, because, one... It takes courage
100%
to fucking, try to branch out and do something different.
Did the same thing.
And two, this is a thing that like is something that I still feel very strongly about, which is that hardcore to me has a built-in like obligation to evolve. I think that we feel like a lot of times like we feel like change is a dirty word, but it's like at the same time, it's like, what were all the records we were listening to? Screaming for change. It's about time that we had to change, make a change. Like it was like, we were screaming about change and then people change and we're like, what the fuck?
I know. So true.
So it's
the
like,
New One record, people flipped. I loved it.
I just want people to evolve. And I feel like, that doesn't mean necessarily like making 180s. Like that means just sort of like staying true to your compass, finding your way and changing in the ways that sort of like make sense to you. I feel like people say to me all the time, oh, you haven't changed. I think a lot of that is like, yeah, I mean, maybe on a basic level, I'm the same type of person. Like, you know what I mean? Like I'm friendly, you know, like I'm thoughtful, or I try to be, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, same hairline. A little bit of gray now, but we're good.
Yeah, it looks good though.
But like all those things, yeah, I get those base level things about me are probably true. But I've evolved in other ways. I've evolved ideologically. I've evolved politically. I've evolved spiritually, emotionally. I like to think that I've evolved in terms of even, like I always say, like in Texas, I was a shitty collaborator. Like I thought that the best bands were the ones where, one guy sort of is sort of like taking the lead, and, we had some success with me, sort of like trying to drive the bus with maybe some unwilling passengers.
Yeah.
Which is, fine. But it was part of the reason why we broke up, because the people were just like, well, come on. Like, I get that. Now it's like, I fucking love collaborating. I love I want that. I want that energy. I want to trade ideas. I want to create things that I couldn't possibly create by myself.
Yeah.
That only happen through collaboration. So just things like that I feel like made me a shittier person back then. I'd like to say that I'm less shitty now.
Okay, yeah. We all grow. We all change, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We become more adults, more mature. Because I feel like we're big kids also to get to play music and do all this awesome stuff that not many people get to do.
But you can see also like why hardcore, like it's weird, especially in the hardcore scene. I do feel like there's this premium or like respect for like, that dude's the same dude, And I'm like, is he? And is that good?
Yes. Yeah. It's not necessarily. Yeah, it's true. Yeah. There's a lot of people that bands that we know kind of do. They kind of are doing the same thing, and some moved on, became parents, moved away, did other things, not just one thing. Yeah, it's
right.
It's so true, man.
I will say that like my favorite transformations are when like hardcore kids become parents, because I do think like that's where the evolution is like forced on you.
Love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. It's life changing. I want to go back to Texas Reason a little bit about the genre that they kind of said you guys were, or which is the word that's been thrown out as the emo core thing that like I've seen you talk about it before too. I've seen Ian talk about it. Just when you guys came out, your style and your sound, they had to all of a sudden just give it a name. This is what it is.
Right. Well, but they didn't call us that when we were a band. Like it was
after.
It was very after.
Yeah.
It was when there was a scene to sort of where people were just trying to name it.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like that's because you could say the same thing. Rites of Spring, Embrace. The Summer of Love, the whole time period in DC and stuff, that same, because I'm sure you guys were inspired by those bands as well.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, like, I would say that from my perspective anyway, there was three legs to sort of like the Texas sort of formula. There was DC, that sort of melodicism and that kind of like, especially on that first 7-inch, that sort of like raw melodicism. Then like New York, which at the time was very, post Helmet, Drop D, like sort of like heavy shit. And then Brit pop.
Interesting.
Which was just something we were all it was the only other thing we sort of all very much agreed on.
Okay.
We loved, obviously the Beatles, but like Oasis. There's this element of swag that actually like opened my eyes in a lot of ways. Because I feel like before Texas, playing in Resurrection, 108, Shelter, like the premium was based on sort of the reality, right? So like you went in, like the clothes that I wore on stage were the clothes that I wore that day.
Yes.
Right.
100%.
And it was just like, I'm just a hardcore kid and I'm just doing it like I do it.
Yeah.
But Texas, at some point during our run, I had the realization that like, and especially as we started getting bigger, and I was like, okay, like, hang on a minute. People are like paying you to perform. Mm-hmm. Ergo, you're a performer. And like, I know that felt like a dirty word, but I was like, no, I mean, like, I want to give thought into what I'm presenting. I want to give thought into how I'm presenting myself. I want to give thought into what the person is experiencing who bought a ticket.
Yeah, totally.
And then all of a sudden, like, a lot of other things started like coming to play. Like, am I really like interesting to look at? Maybe I need to look at videos of myself and be like, would I pay to see me?
Wow. Yeah.
Like, and I literally started looking at old videos of myself and being like, critiquing myself and being like,
wow,
dude, you're just standing there. Or like, like, oh, that looks stupid.
Wow.
And I started like changing and sort of developing who I was when I walk out on stage. Like, and that's not to say that that part of you is false, but it's part of the thing where I realized, and this is like this is something that I think has now landed me in a totally different place as an adult, where I realize that you are a lot of different things at the same time.
It's true.
There's no, like, you can argue that some of these things feel incoherent, but they can exist at the same time all the time. And your goal is not to pick the best version of you that you can find, or like, or say like, well, I know this is a part of me, but I'm going to suppress this over here.
Yeah.
Right. I learned this from obviously the closet, but like, your job is to look at all the things you are and to create the best integrated version. And I always talk about this thing. I don't know where I heard this originally, but it's stuck with me. It's something that I think about all the time, which is that relationship between the two words, integration and integrity. And that became like my obsession. I was like, I need to just accept that I'm a lot of different things that don't always make sense all the time.
Yeah.
And I need to be able to present myself as an integrated human being. Good, bad, ugly, beautiful, whatever. And so to a certain extent, it's like that stage persona, you know, hardcore purists might be like, yo, that's not real, you know, but it is. It's in me.
Yeah.
I'm not picking any of these things from outside of me. I'm picking the things from inside of me that I can bring to a stage and present and feel like I'm doing something worth watching.
Yeah. Totally.
Because if people want to hear the songs, you can listen to the album.
Yeah.
You're coming to see something.
Yeah. That's totally true. Because these are different. It's not like you only listen to one type of music as well. You listen to everything. So there's the different inspirations coming out in Texas, right? That you weren't really showing in 108 or Shelter or Resurrection. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all still you. It's not being forced.
Right.
But people probably automatically thought that because it's a different band with a different sound and different style. And
well, so what's interesting is that I feel like, and I've been thinking about this more as we move into the 30th anniversary of Antimatter.
Yes.
Antimatter to me is a part of my story that I feel like gets buried a little bit. But I think to like literally thousands of people around the world, they will say that Antimatter was like a gate into something for them. And I've literally heard this for the last 30 years. Antimatter changed the way I listen to music. Antimatter, you know, like introduced me to so many things that I never would have listened to otherwise. So here's the weird, dirty secret is that I believe that I was somehow subconsciously, because I knew, so in 1993, when Shelter and 108 went on tour, me and Chris Daly we had started essentially conceiving Texas is the Reason. And so in the fall of 1993, I put out the first issue of Antimatter. In some way, I feel like that entire project was sort of priming people for what I was about to do.
Yeah.
Like it was sort of introducing people to the music that I really loved and sort of hoping that they'll see what I see in it. Like even, it was outrageous. The first issue had Swerve Driver in it.
Wow.
It was like a shoegaze band, like from England. Like what, what does that have to do with anything?
Yeah.
But my conviction was, if you listen to this the way I hear it, you're going to hear the connections.
Yeah.
You're going to make those connections for yourself. And it's like, the fact is now, 30 years later, there's like an entire subgenre of fucking hardcore and post-hardcore that's basically shoegaze.
Yeah.
You know, bands like Nothing or the last Title Fight record, or, you know, like, it's just like, there's so much stuff that's happening now that's like based on those types of sounds. So a lot of things about that fanzine for me was like, and it goes back to the talk about evolution. The 90s were a crazy time for hardcore because I think everybody sort of woke up on January 1st, 1990 and was like, you know, let's try something different. Yeah. And that's where you got Quicksand. That's where you got Inside Out. That's where you got Shelter. That's where you got all these bands that were coming up. And even bands that were like hardcore, like a band like Burn, they were still doing that shit wildly different.
They really were, man.
And
they were.
And I was fucking there for it. I loved it. And so, and that was when my version, what I would say like my version of ideal hardcore was when I started to feel like we were not necessarily tying ourselves to a specific sound, but to a way of being.
Yeah.
And to a community. And that to me is everything. That's meaningful. I don't care if you have fucking thrash beats and mosh parts. Like, I want to know who you are and how you're doing it.
100%. I feel like that word hardcore is thrown around so much throughout 30 years, whatever. It's not, to me, it's not a particular sound. Like you just said, it's like, it's way more than that. It's way deeper than that. You know, it's part of how you live your life. It's part of your values, everything, ethics, all that.
And I do think that this is like a weird story. I remember, so Keith Burkhart, the singer for Cause for Alarm.
Yeah.
I used to live with him in 93 or 94 or something. Maybe closer to 94. And at that point, you know, Keith dropped out of hardcore like in 1983 or something. Like he was like, I have a kid. I need to do something. Right. So he did his thing. But we were living together at this time. And I remember one day I was listening to Sensefield and he walked into my room and he was just listening to it. And he was like, these guys come from the hardcore scene, don't they? And I was like, wow. They do. And he was like, yeah, you can hear it. Like, it's cool to hear that sort of, you know, someone who's completely disconnected from it for 10 years, walk in, listen to a band that's doesn't sound anything like fucking Cause for Alarm. Yeah. And be able to draw that connection. It's true. To me, that's like, I realize like, oh, actually like what hardcore is, even musically, is profound. Yeah. Like the DNA of it exists. It existed in Texas Is the Reason. It exists in Thursday. It exists in like everything I've ever done, regardless of how far removed it is from quote unquote proper hardcore.
Yeah. I remember the GB house with Walter and Civ, and I came home one day and Walter always had new records. He was playing the Sugar Cubes and he was playing the Smiths, Meet His Murder. And I was like, what is this? Like I had heard some stuff like 7 Seconds with Thanking U2, and Kevin had grown his hair out. So I started checking out U2 because of 7 Seconds. But then Walter was playing these two records. I was like, wow, this is amazing. It's like, yeah, you check out this band. Walter was always playing stuff that wasn't hardcore in the GB house, and he always opened my mind to new things, you know. Yeah. And if you think about the Smiths, just to Meet His Murder as your album title in the 80s, it's so fucking punk. Oh yeah. Regardless if you like that band or not, just that alone, that message was so powerful.
I always joke about how the unsung hero of 90s New York hardcore was the Sundays. Because
I love the Sundays, man. Everybody listened to them too.
Everybody,
even Isaac loved them. Bro.
I went to a Sunday show, and I remember it was like we were in the balcony. It was me, Alan Cage, Chaka, Mark Ryan. Wow. Like it was literally everyone you can think of, and we were all just like, yes.
Sundays and the Cranberries.
Oh yeah, but it's like you listen to those records, and I remember like listening to Sundays Blind. And being like, yo, there's parts here that I can totally rip off that are mosh parts. Legit.
That is funny, man. Yeah, shout out to them. I mean, both those bands too. Like, you don't know how they got into the world. If they came through Walter, through our house, Sundays and Cranberries, so good, dude. Yeah. I still listen to them too, man. Yeah. It's crazy because like there was a part of like being punk and hardcore. It was like you had the blinders on. All I do is listen to punk. That's it. Nothing else. Fuck everything else. Fuck everything else. And then you start opening your mind and meeting more people and listening to other things. Obviously, I loved hip hop and I loved Madonna. But then later on, like just like fast forward to now, when you have bands like Turnstile and all these different bands who sound like everything that I love, like pop, everything, man. Yeah. Funk, hip hop, hardcore, everything. All the melodies, like it's beautiful, man.
But there's so much stuff that I feel like a lot of this stuff was. It existed in early hardcore and then sort of got petered out through the sort of curse of purism. And then maybe sort of started reemerging later on because like, yeah. And even like when you think about like, this is something that I feel like I've wanted to actually dig in deeper to, like almost to the level of writing a book about it. Mm-hmm. I remember reading Tony Rettman's New York Hardcore book.
Oh yeah. I remember that book. Yeah.
And like, the thing that stood out to me from like the first, you know, bunch of chapters was that all of these bands, you know, from the Stimulators on, that were sort of like seen as these Genesis bands, right?
Yeah.
Like Even Worse or The Mad, or like all these bands featured members that were women, queer, people of color, like.
Good point.
And then bizarrely, hardcore in the 80s, people are like, well, it's just a white person thing. And it was like, wait, what happened?
Yeah, that's fucking interesting too.
Because I've always had this weird, I don't know. I mean, I don't even know how to describe it. It's like almost a hang up about wondering how I wound up so entrenched in this world that truthfully for so many years just felt so white. And I mean,
homophobic as well,
and homophobic and straight, but specifically white, because I feel like it took me years to even sort of like understand myself as a person of color struggling in the world, right? Like where I sort of like, and thinking about hardcore and being like, this was the hard question, was this: why is it that when I go to a show, I feel like such a minority, right? What is it about this community that attracted me but doesn't attract people like me?
Wow.
Like, what is it that shuts the door on people like me from walking in and being like, yo, that's not for me? Yeah. And even though like every fucking show you've got somebody screaming anti-racism and like, let's unite and all this stuff. Like, are we really as inclusive as we're singing about? What are we doing that's making people feel like they're not welcome?
It's a great point, man. It's a really great point. It's very interesting because I feel like coming from DC, which was very diverse at the shows.
Yeah.
I feel like New York had way less white skinheads at shows, like you talked about earlier. There's a whole different crews of people that it felt very diverse. But like, at the same time, I'm a white guy saying that, so it's like, do you know what I mean?
Well, I mean, it was like there were people that were hanging out, right?
Yeah.
Like, when you talk about the like black skinheads, like Rico, or like, you know what I mean? Like, it was like there were people hanging out, or like Phil Regard, or like. They were like, and obviously there were tons of Queens people that were hanging out. Like,
as far as bands, we had Gingy, Chaka, Chuck Trace. He was an underdog,
right?
Like, it's a good point, man.
It didn't feel like it's still, there were people around, but I still very much felt like other. Mm-hmm. And I think that changed a little bit in New York. Like in the early 90s, it felt like Queens and Brooklyn people really started like coming in and taking over a little bit.
That's true too.
And even though there was a lot of violence at that time, like
Fahrenheit 451.
Yeah. Like I was still like
Sergio.
I was still kind of like, yo, this is cool. Like,
yeah, it got really crazy, man.
It got crazy.
Underacting, all those different venues.
Yeah. I mean, I remember
scary, dude.
I remember this show that I went to. Well, I actually didn't go to the show. This is maybe my fault, my bad, because I was trying to fucking rubberneck a potential fucking brawl. But basically, I had heard it was, I don't know if you were at this show. It was at the Marquee. It was Biohazard, Burn.
It was a Super Bowl.
It wasn't. Okay. It was just a show. But the word around town was that there was this whole Brooklyn Queens brawl that was going to happen.
Wow.
And I was, and I'm like, yo, like, I at least want to check it out.
Yeah.
So I'm going to rubberneck a brawl, basically. And I'm waiting for the show to get out because that's when it's supposed to happen. And this dude, and to this day, I have no idea who this dude was. Never seen him before. Nothing. Like, comes up to me. I'm hanging out with, I don't know who I was with at that time. It was just a friend. And like, he comes up to me and he just literally walks up and he's like, yo, Brooklyn or Queens?
Oh, shit.
And I was like, oh, there's a wrong answer here.
Holy shit.
And then he like, I don't say anything. I'm just looking at him and he goes again, Brooklyn or Queens? And then he lifts his shirt and he shows like he's got a gun.
Holy shit.
And
dude.
I'm like, and I just said, yo, I live on East 10th Street.
Perfect.
And
Dude, that's scary, man.
he sort of left me alone. I mean, obviously in my heart I wanted to be like, yo, Queens.
I know.
But
That's scary.
yeah.
I was at CB's at the last show at the Raw Deal or Killing Time show, and the guy pulled out a gun in front. I was right there behind. I was hiding behind Anthony. A guy.
Oh shit.
I was like, this is fucked, man.
Yeah.
Then I just started going on tour, sick of it all. I was never around. Just started touring and getting the fuck away from the city, and because I didn't grow up around. I'm coming from Maryland to Rhode Island to DC. I was always super posy. All my friends skated, all that shit. I had dreads. I thought I was in fucking.
You had dreads?
Yeah, I thought I was like a Dogtown Alva fantasy. Grew those shits out, and then I moved to New York with Timmy Chunks, and then they go to CBGB's and meet I'm all by myself. They call me the hick from Maryland, call me redneck. I lived in Maryland only fucking 4 years. Everybody, everything else was Boston, Rhode Island, and then I go there and it's just fuck, man. And it's like. I'm not a tough guy. I was never into that shit. Then you meet all these people, and they give you this tough New York love. They take you under their wing. Then I start my band, and then they bring you in, and it's like all these fucking people that you've listened to most of your life are like, I'm gonna go to New York and be part of this scene. It's just it's surreal. But a lot of these dudes come from different backgrounds than I came from. You know, it's more of like a tougher city. But yeah, it was scary, man, at times hanging out in there, man.
I mean, so I'll ask you a question. So like when H2O started, I remember my impression of you, because you were like, I knew you'd been touring with Sick of It All and like all that stuff. And then I was like, oh, that's interesting. Like he started this band, but it was very like, to me, I was like, this is an interesting sort of story because this is a very sort of like, it felt like a very scrappy come up kind of band. Like you were like, it didn't feel like you were coming out with this like even necessarily fully realized thing. Like there was a lot of people in the band that I was like, oh, I don't know these dudes. Like, you know, and I was like,
Eric Rice, Zero Tolerance.
Oh yeah. I did know Eric, but like still it was very, it just felt this kind of like scrappy kind of vibe where it was just like, yo, we're going to fucking do this. Like, but I'm wondering, like, I was always like, did you feel that way? Or what did you feel? Like, were you just sort of like, I just want to fucking play a couple shows?
Yeah, I mean, we kind of got thrown into it because Sick of It All wrote that riff to My Love Is Real, which is that screamy song. And we'd jump on stage and do that as an encore or like before Biohazard. It was with Tim Henson, Armand, and Pete and me. That's what it was.
Right.
Ezek would play bass sometimes. Yeah, it was like kind of like this joke thing. And then like I made a sticker, like a water drop, and it was gonna be a straight edge, pure band. And then they wrote a riff to 5-Year Plan, and then Rusty joined the band, and we started writing songs, and everything we listened to was melody. And I think people thought because I had a mustache, probably shaved head, who I hung out with, who I roadie for, how I looked, it was going to be like this tough guy shit. But that was never my thing. So when I came out on the first 7-inch on Equal Vision Records, a love song about Moon, and Moon on the cover, like what the people didn't know what to expect. I think because I was trying to sing and had melody. Yeah, it just happened really fast, man, to be honest. I remember we played our first show in Queens. Like, Walter was there, Sick of It All. Moon was dating some other guy she was going to marry, and she brought him. And it was at this small bar in Queens, and there was this crazy security, and a big fight broke out after we played before Murphy's Law. And I remember me and Moon running down the street together with her boyfriend, jumping in cabs. Like, it was crazy, bro. Next show was with the Chromax at the Limelight. It just kind of happened like that, and then, like, my brother left his band, Outcrowd. They joined the band. Then he was a real good songwriter. Then we got signed, and it just 27 years later, bro.
Sick of It All were at Texas's first show too.
They were.
Yeah.
They were.
Well, it was. We did it at the Equal Vision Loft.
Oh yeah, that was great on 23rd or 26th Street.
Yeah.
That was
well,
a great
that's.
spot.
I was still living there when the H2O 7-inch came out.
Wow.
And but we played in our living room. And it was great, yeah. Like those guys came out, and like Capo was there, and it was we just basically threw a party, yeah. And it was weird, that show, playing your first show in your living room in Manhattan, because most people, you gotta understand, it was a loft for people who don't understand. It wasn't just an apartment.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like for people, for some of the peers, like I was supposed to be just a goofy guy who break danced, to fucking pull Lou out of the crowd or fix his rat tail. I'm just joking. But I was just a guy like behind the scenes, and like I started touring with them. Like, I started writing in my journal, like I want to do this too. I have something to say. And then it just went from a joke to like a reality, man. It's crazy, man.
I think about Lou a lot because I would say it's him and Mike Judge in Antimatter. We had these conversations, or these maybe diversions in the conversation where we talked about age. And at the time, we're talking like Lou was what? I think 27 or 28.
Seems so old, bro.
And Mike, I think maybe was turning 30 or something.
Yeah.
And like at the time, we were just talking about like we were fucking 1 foot in the grave or something. Like it was like
so true.
And Lou, I remember specifically, was just like, I mean, this is all I've ever done. This is all I know. I don't know like what I'm gonna do next. Like I have nothing, And it's like, so it's crazy to me to like, 25 years later, like we're like, I'm coming on this anniversary and I'm looking at these interviews and I'm like, I need to re-interview these people.
That'd be so cool, man.
Because
especially Mike too, man.
Yeah, and
love him.
And I feel like it's really. I mean, Mike's story is definitely bizarre. Like I feel like even when I found him back then, like it was really like it was like a mission impossible to find Mike Judge at that point.
Totally.
And it was like the only reason I managed to get him was Mark Ryan got in the mix and was able to sort of like be like,
wow.
yo, you should talk to him. Like you should do this, like whatever.
I love him
because he didn't want to do it.
I love how mysterious he was and off the grid and just nobody really knew, Like,
yeah. But this point about aging in hardcore is so interesting to me because obviously I'm aging.
Yeah.
And there was no blueprint other than maybe everyone thought Stigma was already 50.
Who's still killing it, by the way. It looks amazing.
Yeah,
dude.
he's doing his thing. And it's like he was maybe the one person I feel like in the scene where everybody thought, oh, okay, that's the old guy or whatever. But like he wasn't even that old.
No.
And sort of like the way we talked about like Capo was like, oh, like when I met him, it felt like he was like already a million years old. Like he was like, but he wasn't. And so now we're in fucking 2022.
Yeah.
And I don't know, you would think that we would have all quote unquote aged out, but like we're still doing it.
I know, man.
And like
killing it too, still jumping around. We was talking about that.
Do you think that there's like I talk about this all the time. Like I'm on tour Thursday right now. We're doing this 21-year Full Collapse thing. We're playing Full Collapse. And, I'm like 21 years, that's legal age.
Yeah.
That's an adult.
Yeah.
And, are kids actually like doing the math when they go to these shows and being like, how old are these dudes?
I know.
Or does it not matter? Or is it just...
But I feel like it keeps us young, man. I feel like hardcore out of any other genre of music, it seems. Because you see like some of the older rock dudes, how they look.
Right.
Obviously, they have a lot more money to get things done to their faces, whatever. But I'm still like, hardcore, I don't know. I just feel like it keeps us young. I don't know. It's so different. Seeing all of our peers age, all they see Stigma, like I said, jumping around. Roger...
Right.
Just went through cancer and I was on tour killing it. Like, just like, fuck.
Right.
Yeah. It's incredible, man.
There's something about it that I can't explain.
It's just youthful.
Like, and I don't know, like when people tell me stuff like, oh, you look like you haven't changed at all. I make jokes about how like, well, that's because I'm fucking gay without children and have no stress.
But there's other people that look, I don't know. Keith Morse, dude, like mid-60s, bro.
Yeah, that's wild.
And Kevin Seconds, I saw him play recently. His voice was perfect.
Yeah.
He's in his 60s as well.
Yeah.
It's insane. I don't know if it's some sort of something that's that stays in us. I don't know. It's something magical from this music, man, that stay with us our whole lives, that like we use it in parenting, we use it in our everyday life. I don't know. And then we get to still play that music that people care about. It's crazy, bro. And the different generations that have grown up with our bands and they're bringing their kids to the shows.
Right.
It's like,
that's wild.
It's
like,
totally wild.
That's definitely the weirdest part. But I feel very privileged that I've been in a position where, like I remember somebody sent us like pictures of the wedding rings engraved.
Ooh.
With Texas lyrics and things like that, where you're just like,
amazing.
Somehow like all these years you stay a part of these people's lives and it's meaningful.
It's crazy, man.
And I never sort of, I don't regret anything basically. Like
Yeah.
I definitely have like such a, we played This Is Hardcore this year.
Yeah.
And Leeway played, and Eddie's been going through his thing.
Yes.
And I remember this one part. I was like, I literally teared up. It was like he was just talking, and he was like, I've fucked up a lot in my life. I've done a lot of fucking shitty things. I've fucked over a lot of people. Like, I mean, he was just like, it just felt like he was like in his feelings.
Yeah.
And then he goes, but the one thing I did right was hardcore.
Wow. It's fucking beautiful, man.
And I was just like, fuck. Like, I was like literally tearing up.
Yeah.
And,
Real.
and it's weird that like, I kind of feel the same. Like we, when I was going through some shit, or whenever I've gone through shit where like I need help, right? Like the people who were always there for me, like I have a lot of different sort of legs to my life and a lot of different social sort of groups that I'm a part of. But the hardcore kids were always the ones who truly came through.
Yeah.
Like there was a time where I was like, maybe it was 7 years ago, where I was really like, fucked. I was like, fuck, I need a job. I need money. Like I was like, and I'm like asking people from every level of my life of just like, yo, you got to help me. Like, who's hiring, like what companies, blah, blah, blah. And people were like, yeah, I'll reach out and all this stuff. No one did shit. And Keith Burkhart comes in and he's like, you're working with me. And I was like, well, what does that mean? He's just like, you're joining my real estate company. I'm gonna start paying you right away.
Wow.
And he's like, and at that point I was like $100,000 in debt. I had student loans, credit card loans. I was completely, and he was like, you're going to pay that off. Trust me. And I did.
That's incredible, man.
And he completely, that to me was like a total, like, yeah, this is it. Like, these are the people that I can depend on, like still.
That's incredible. Yeah, that's awesome. What were you going to school for? Did you go later on in life, obviously?
I did. I started college when I was 33, and I went in and got a bachelor's in English and adolescent education.
Nice.
And a master's in linguistics. And I did it in 5 years. I just wanted to be like in and out. That's why I accumulated debt.
Yeah, of course.
And then I spent the next 5 years teaching at a university.
That's great. What university?
Brooklyn College. So it was I loved it, but unfortunately, living in New York City on a teacher's salary of any kind is untenable. So, and it started to show. Like I was becoming a shitty teacher.
Really? Wow.
Because I was constantly preoccupied or trying to make money other ways, or like, taking too many classes in a semester, like where I'm like, okay, I'm teaching 5 classes. That's a lot.
Yeah.
Like, and it doesn't sound like a lot, but it's a lot, especially when you put it in grading, lesson planning, creating materials. It's just like, maybe some people have a better system, but I was drowning in it. And I was drowning in it, and I felt like I was just making enough money to get by. And so I feel bad. Like I'm always just like, to some of my students who had me at that time, I apologize. I was stressed.
Didn't anybody recognize you from Texas?
Yes. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. It happened twice, I think.
That's amazing.
And it was cool. But honestly, I think one of the things that I sort of feel the most proud about was that when you teach in the humanities, English, literature, writing, a lot of your personal life comes out because you're just, this is what writing is about. This is what literature is about. It's about human living and human condition and like emotions and all these things. And so I was very consciously like, I want to be fully out in the classroom. I want them to know that almost from day one.
Okay.
And I think that it's important because I was like, in order to teach, in order for someone to like take you seriously teaching, I do think that there needs to be this element of not vulnerability, but a sense of just being like, I'm going to be real with you.
Yeah.
Because that's the only way I'm going to get real work from you.
True.
You know, and so over the years, I've had a lot of students that, you know, took that in different ways. Yeah, there were definitely queer kids who came up to me who were struggling with coming out. There were definitely like, all, you know, but I remember I had a student who was being abused by her husband and didn't know where to go to. And that was a little rough, but I was like, look,
it's heavy.
You know, she saw me as someone who was being real with her.
Yeah.
And she, for whatever reason, decided that made me trustworthy enough. And I was like, I'm going to have to take this seriously. And I just said to her, look, I was like, you know, I'm going to send you some resources. I don't ever want you to be in danger. And if you feel like you're in serious danger, you need to make the police report.
Yeah.
You know, like that needs to be on the record. Like, you know, and it was crazy. Like, cause I'm not a trained counselor. Mm-hmm. I sent her eventually to, you know, a counselor and to a support group, in her area. And, but it was like, that was the first time I realized like, wow, like this is a responsibility. Mm-hmm. And it definitely, and it also kind of, again, unfortunately sort of like tainted the perception of, wow, this is a huge responsibility. Am I getting paid enough? Yeah. Like this is a lot on this is affecting my psyche. Yeah. Like, because I'm like worried about this person and I'm like, you know, I'm trying to help and it's like, you know,
it's a lot.
I'm not qualified to help, you know, like, so I did my best. And in the end, at least the last that I'd heard, she was getting the help she needed, and she actually did make a police report.
Oh, that's great, man. That's amazing.
I do feel good about that.
But yeah, that's beautiful. Did the Misfits ever hit you up about the name or anything, or no?
Never.
Really? Wow. Even like, yo, that's cool, or nothing like that. Yeah.
No, I mean, honestly,
do you expect anything ever? Or?
You know, when we came out, they were sort of like a little dormant. That's right. I guess. Yeah. But like, I mean, I suppose that I'd be curious. Like, did they ever hear us? Totally. But it's never ever come up. I mean, and honestly, like when we first had the name, like I was sort of opposed to it on the grounds that it was a Misfits lyric, but I did a test. I did a test run. Okay. Specifically with Jordan Cooper, Mark Ryan, I forget, was one other person. Mark Ryan specifically because he's fucking New Jersey, old school. Yeah. You know, like Misfits. And Jordan because like I was like, you know, he seems like the right, you know, sort of like demographic. But the test was basically I'm going to tell them the name of the band and I want to see if their first reaction is like Misfits. And neither of them said that. Oh, wow. It was sort of just like,
I didn't know either at the beginning either.
Yeah. It's sort of one of those songs or one of those lyrics that you sort of just, it's in your head, but it's not. You're sort of, you know, at least, I mean, now it's in your head. Yeah. Because we've, you know, we made it. Totally. We, you know, amplified it. But at the time, Jordan and Mark were both just like, what is that? Yeah. And so when they said that, I was like, okay, we can use it as a name because it won't be the first thing that people think about necessarily at that time.
No, it's a great name. Is it true the same day you guys signed your deal to Capitol? Was it Capitol?
It was.
You guys flew to Europe for a tour. Then that was pretty much, you figured out once you got there and played the show, this is the last tour?
The other way around.
Way around.
We were in Europe
coming home.
We were going to come home to sign. The contracts were ready. And I think that was when the camel's back broke.
And you guys were killing it at that point.
Yeah. It was a fucking great tour.
And was there a moment in Texas region where like, holy crap, like this is like my life, this is my career? Like we're really doing it?
Yes.
Not like we made it, but like.
No, but we definitely got to a place where we were doing well enough that, okay, this now feels like a career, or at least the beginning of one. Yeah. And we definitely were getting enough sort of support from like very influential music industry figures that were basically like, this is going to happen. Yeah. But I think that in the end, that was what destroyed us because, well, for me, it destroyed me because I really was like, what you just said, basically.
Yeah.
This is my career. This is whatever. I felt like there was a weight that mentally I couldn't handle.
Yeah.
Meaning that, and this is very, very tied to coming out.
Yeah.
I did not think I could come out in Texas the reason.
Wow.
So the idea of signing a contract and then continuing this for however many more years just seemed completely impossible to me. I was like, I would die literally if
The
I
whole
did
band
this.
knew you were, though.
No, not.
What?
I never explicitly said.
Damn.
I think that, yeah, they probably knew to some extent, but at that point I had never explicitly told them.
Wow, man. That's.
I would say probably at that point the only person that knew was Rob Fish.
Wow. That's like a lot of pressure and stuff to live for you all those years, man.
It was, I mean, again, like that at that time, and I talk about how like this was sort of confirmed to me when Jason from The Promise Ring came out. Like, because basically like at that time, the J Tree message board blew the fuck up with the type of shit that I still can't even believe. I mean, it was insane.
Things,
just super fucking hateful, homophobic shit.
So much, dude.
And it got to a place where like I told the guys at J Tree, I was basically like, dude, your fucking message board is a cesspool of fucking homophobia right now. I was like, I'm not going to tell you what to do, but here's what I would do. I would shut it down and replace it with an essay about homophobia, which I will write.
That is incredible.
And they did it. And they posted my essay. And
really?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And that was the end of the J Tree message board. But it was really like, but when that happened, I was like, see, I knew it, like, because people still now, they're like, well, I don't understand why you didn't come out. Like, it would have been fine. Like,
such a different time.
I don't think people understand. I just don't.
I hated message boards so much, man.
Yeah. That was
like the beginning of the end, dude.
Totally. That was the beginning of, I can say any shitty thing and feel no consequences.
So negative, so bad, dude. Like, who are all these people that buy these records or are part of this world that we think's an open-minded community? I
always laugh. I was like, get nostalgic and be like, remember the times when you used to talk shit and get your ass beat?
It's true. Now there's no consequences, man.
None.
I mean, I have seen some cases where people talk shit online and somebody gets approached in real life and they deny, oh, it's this kid, or just stuff like that. But it's
right.
Like, it's the worst, man. Are you on social media a lot or no?
I mean, I'm on Instagram, which is most, I would say. To me, Instagram's actually the way I use it, and the people who sort of follow me there, I feel like it's a very positive place.
Same, yeah.
I'm on Twitter a little bit, but
Twitter's insane, bro.
I get more depressed on Twitter, so I don't go there a lot.
Yeah, it's.
Because that's really, I mean, Facebook is really where people go to be their worst selves. I'm not, I have a Facebook profile, but I'm not on Facebook. I kind of keep it there in case some rando needs to get in touch with me or something. But like, otherwise it's like, every time I look at it, I'm just like, wow, I hate feeling like all my friends suck.
Especially the past couple of years, man, seeing a lot of people rise to the top, like showing their true colors and stuff. It's really fucking hurts my heart, man.
It's really, really depressing. And so,
especially people from our world too, like you think a certain way and stuff, like just, man, it's an interesting time for that.
Yeah.
It's a good place to promote podcast and music and things you're doing, but this also, is this a real negative? Do you let like negative comments or shit bother you? Do you ever get any anyway?
I don't know that I do. Yeah. I mean, like, I typically feel like you get what you put out into the world.
True.
And I think right now I kind of don't put out too much negative shit.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
At least I'm very conscious of it. And I've really I've made this a point, because I think, so one of the things about the internet in general is that it's such a place of anger.
Yes.
And I get that one of the things that got me into hardcore was that I was an angry kid.
True.
And so seeing that sort of hardcore kids go on the internet to be angry, I'm not going to be like, what? That's shocking.
It's true. It's true.
I get that. But again, evolution. I'm not an angry kid anymore.
Yeah.
I was an angry kid because I felt powerless. I was an angry kid because I felt othered. I was an angry kid because I felt shamed.
Kind of trapped in your body too. It's
Yeah. Like all this shit, there was a lot of reasons to be angry. But at this point, it's sort of like that. Here's another fucking weird saying that I don't know where it comes from, but I heard it and I was immediately like, yes, this. That notion of anger just is setting yourself on fire and expecting the other person to burn. Like,
yeah,
it's like, I don't want that anymore. And I had this realization, this is a sort of relation to my Zen Buddhist practice, but like,
okay.
I had this realization about anger, and specifically like when you think about Buddhism, one of the sort of key tenets or ideas of Buddhism is this notion of impermanence and sort of accepting things in the way that they are, and dealing with the world in the way it is, because that's how to be radically present. But so one of the things about impermanence is that when you meditate, breathing is sort of like the embodiment of impermanence. Breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out.
Mm-hmm.
It's completely just like change over and over. No two breaths are the same if you're not, faking it. Like some people think they're supposed to go, no, you're just supposed to breathe, just normal. Anyway, the thing about anger and impermanence is that I realize that whenever I get viscerally angry, that feeling comes and it goes actually very quickly. The visceral feeling of it, right? So in order for me to stay angry, I have to work. I have to put the work in, right? Like nobody can maintain that high level of angriness or anger, like, within, for like 20 minutes straight.
True.
Right. Maybe 3 minutes, 5 minutes. Right.
Yeah.
But then after that, you've got to start fucking pouring the gasoline mentally, whatever. You got to make yourself fucking angry.
Yeah.
And I was doing that with so much shit. And I was like, that's stupid. Just get angry, feel it, let it pass. Yeah. Don't fucking pour the gas.
Yeah. That's a big part of your life too, the breathing and all that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that was, I think like when I left the Krishna movement, like there were things about it that I still felt were, even though like I wasn't a theist, the meditation aspects of it, I think were always things that I felt were helpful and sort
still
of like,
do.
yeah. And so at some point several years ago, I started like, well, I don't know, there's got to be like secular meditation that seems interesting. And that was actually, interestingly enough, when you're a Hare Krishna, they tell you that Buddha is I think it was like the 9th incarnation of Krishna.
Okay.
And they say that Buddha's goal was to come here to, what was it? It was like, it was almost like a bridge. So he basically came during a degraded period of time when people started eating meat again. And so like he started teaching compassion, but he was also teaching impersonalism, which is sort of separate from like Krishna philosophy, which is a personalist philosophy. But he did that because the only thing he needed to do was to get people to stop eating animals. So that's the sort of Krishna version. So I always thought Buddha was like a deity. And and I just never interrogated that belief because that was sort of like what I was taught from an early age. And then like several years ago, I'm like reading about Buddhism. I was like, oh, actually, he's not a deity. Like Buddha's just a dude. He's just a dude. And he was like, figured some things out and shared them with people and was like, you can be that dude too.
It's awesome. I never thought about it like that actually.
Yeah. And so that was that was sort of like, I was like, okay, like I can roll with this. What's he teaching? And then I sort of like started looking at different types of Buddhism. And Theravada was like sort of like the original entry, but then I started reading more about Zen, and then I found a Zen teacher that I really related to, and then
that's cool.
Been working with him for several years.
It's crazy how hardcore is like such a homophobic, violent, macho, crazy place, but you managed to stay safe and feel part of that world. You know what I mean? In a sense, when there's so many odds against you, people not really knowing what you really were inside. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'll be honest. I still feel semi-threatened in hardcore spaces.
Really? Even 2022?
It's so weird, but also
that's probably like something from back then, though. No?
It could be. It's like
trauma.
It's hard to sort of let go of those feelings. Like I still remember the fear of like walking out of the 6 train down Bleecker Street. And walking towards the Bowery and being like, is today the day I get my ass kicked? That kind of feeling. And it wasn't even necessarily that I was worried about getting my ass kicked for being gay or anything like that. But, there was always that element, right? You were sort of just like, it's wild. Shit is wild in here. Yeah. Anything can happen, right?
Yeah.
But there's so many also, like, I feel like, and I don't know, like, how you resolve this, because I feel like H2O is a little bit of like a bridge band between like different types of hardcore scenes that exist right now. But like when I go to like a Black and Blue Bull, I'm still sort of like looking over my shoulder, like I feel like there's a little bit of a wilder element where I'm sort of like, I don't know if these people know or care who I am. Like I remember being like, and you probably know this too, like, so like in the 80s and even the early 90s, right? Like you'd have people who like maybe they'd say something that's out of pocket or something, but people would be like, yo, but that dude's been around. That dude's been going to shows for like 8 years.
So we get some pass for saying some dumb shit.
Right. Because it's sort of like there's this element
that's just him, or he's just
there was still like a hierarchy of seniority.
True.
Like that sort of mattered. Like if somebody had been going to shows in 1981, you weren't going to be telling that person what is or isn't hardcore.
Yeah.
Right. Like there was a respect that you were like, you know what, dude, you're like my older brother. Like whatever it is, like I'm going to listen to your shit.
Fast forward to now when a lot of those old cats are on social media acting out.
Right.
That respect is gone. I think it is not even like that. Now it's like, nah, dude.
But it doesn't feel like that at all. Like it's weird because to me that sort of respect and sort of like hierarchy, and respect doesn't necessarily mean like I'm going to listen to everything you say and I'm going to like cosign.
No.
But it means that like, at least you're going to like, I'm going to listen.
Yeah.
Right. And I feel like
it's OG
now, exactly. And I feel like now there's a sense of like, it's like I went to my first show in December of 1986. It's like, I don't think that means anything to anyone.
That's pretty freaking cool though, man.
It's cool, but it's
pretty amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Another thing I want to ask you about too. You get hit by a truck.
I did.
Was that in Chicago?
Oakland.
And you were on tour?
No, I was living there.
So was it like what kind of truck was it?
Tow truck. So it was, and actually, so bizarrely, we're
you like in the hospital too, right?
For 2 months, yeah. Wow. So this is actually the
Moon told me to bring this one up. She goes, remember you get hit by a truck? No.
So this actually happened almost 19 years ago exactly.
Oh shit!
To the day, like from where we sit right now. Next year will be the 20th anniversary, so I'll do something special. But but it was I was living in Oakland, and
why were you in Oakland?
This is still the thorn on my side. My one regret in life. My one regret in life.
Okay, here's your regrets. That's one of the questions.
Was leaving Chicago.
Okay.
And specifically why I left Chicago. I left Chicago in the year 2000, and at the time, I had this fucking amazing life. I had this sick apartment. I had jobs that didn't feel like jobs. Like, so I was sort of working, but I was basically just living my life every day.
Yeah. And you were out.
I was out.
And about.
I was DJing. I was like, I had great friends. Everything was great. And therein lies the rub. Because I'm a fucking masochist, apparently. And I was like, it's too easy to live here. I need some struggle. Wow. And I just was like, I'm moving. So I moved to Oakland because basically FAR had broken up. And I said, Jonah Matranga and I had started like sending each other tapes of music. And we were like, all right, let's start a band. And I was like, all right, cool. I'm going to go there and struggle. And so I moved there and I struggled. and totally regret it.
Was there a big gay community there too?
Oh, well, in San Francisco, obviously. Course, yeah. So, but honestly, like at that point, I was very, I was engaged with, I knew an original. I had, I was running a record label, like house music. I was DJing. So cool. I was doing a lot of shit. So I was like out and about. And so interestingly enough, the night before this happened, was the night I met Thursday. It was, they were playing at the Warfield with Thrice and Coheed and Cambria. Steve Reddy was out with Coheed and Cambria. Nice. So I went out to go see Steve Reddy.
Shout out to Steve Reddy, one of the greatest human beings that come from hardcore.
100%. And so I went to go see Steve. I'm hanging out with him, and Steve Padula from Thursday comes up to me and he's like, "Yo, do you remember me?" I was like, "Not at all." What's that? And he was like, we actually sort of were pen pals back in the day. Like we traded video. Like I remember he sent me a video of Embrace and Race of Spring.
Wow.
And I maybe sent him something stupider. But we were sort of, like he wrote me from the zine, and I was like, "Oh, I do remember you. Like, what's up? Like, what are you doing here?" And he was like, "I'm in Thursday." And I was like, "Crazy." Like, and at this point, Thursday was like War All the Time era. It was like, they're on the cover of Spin, and it's like, are they the next U2? It was like
huge,
crazy. And so I was like, wow, that's amazing. So I met all the dudes in the band, and then I went home, woke up the next day, and I had just moved. So I was going to pick up my bike, which I had left behind. And I was crossing the street, and a tow truck just ran into me. Like, according to the police report, it was something like 25 miles an hour, which doesn't sound like a lot, but apparently it is when you're walking down the street.
And plus the tow trucks are fucking heavy.
Right. And so I got hit. I kind of gauged from my injuries that I maybe lifted my hand up a little bit when I saw it coming, and it hit my ribs. But it didn't break my ribs, interestingly. It sort of bruised my ribs, but it broke my pelvis in 2 places. Fuck. And then I broke my wrist. But the worst part was, I landed on my skull, and I had a traumatic brain injury, and there was cranial bleeding.
Jesus.
And so I was unconscious for 3 days while they were trying to figure out what to do, because generally... here's my neurology fucking lesson.
You knocked out for 3 days.
Yeah.
Wow.
So my neurology lesson is this, because I didn't know this. So when there's blood in the skull that starts applying pressure to your brain, it can potentially break the liner that protects your brain from blood.
Wow.
And apparently if blood hits your brain, instant corrosive death. So as the blood is sort of piling in my skull, they're sitting there like, okay, what are we going to do? The options are blood thinners or drill a hole into your skull. Right. And so they were on the verge of drilling a hole into my skull, but then the blood thinner started working, and it was able to resolve without any drills.
Wow. That's fucking scary, man.
And then I wake up, 3 days later, I have no fucking idea. And I have no personal memory of the accident. That's one of the things that your brain does to protect you from trauma.
Yeah.
But I did read the police report, and that was quite a fucking read. it was thrilling, actually, because there were a lot of witnesses. It was in the middle of the day.
Wow.
And people were like, so apparently after I'd been hit and landed and all this stuff, like, I somehow with a broken pelvis stood up and started cursing the guy out.
Really?
I'm just, I don't know. And it said with blood running down his face, he starts cursing him out, and then just, falls on the floor again.
Holy shit. We'd be sick if there was a video of that.
I wish. I would have been so sick.
Just to see you stand up like that, like fucking.
I'm sure that the tow truck driver must have been fucking horrified. Like,
yeah, man.
I can't even. It must have been some like Walking Dead shit. Like, I don't even know. But yeah. So like that goes down. And what was crazy too was that I was literally just on the verge. Like, my career as a DJ was really happening.
Yeah.
And I had just booked my first tour in Spain, and I was so excited. And all I could think about as soon as I woke up, the first thing I said was like, I gotta be in Spain in a week.
Yeah.
And they were like, you're not going to be in Spain in a week. And I was like, no.
So you never got to go there and DJ?
No. And then what happened was the traumatic brain injury left me with like a migraine headache that lasted a year.
A year?
It was an entire year. It was so, I cannot even explain to you. I grew up with migraines, so I have this contentious relationship with them already. But to wake up every morning with that pounding in your temple is like a fucking hell that I can't, I can't even describe. And the worst part is like, after, when you're in it for a year, you're just like, is this ever going to? No, never. Yeah, you're like, is this, I just spent all my time in bed, just like trying to forget.
Were you going to see specialists about it all the time and trying to figure it out?
I went to a neurologist, but there was nothing that they could do. They were like, this is just sort of like part of the healing process.
Damn, dude.
But there was points where it was like, it felt like, I mean, again, I guess I've had a few suicidal points in my life. This was definitely one of them. Yeah, because I was just like, if this is how I live my life, I can't live like this anymore. Mm-hmm. But it's crazy also to say, like, one morning I woke up and it wasn't there.
That's crazy too.
And that felt like I can't. I mean, oh fuck! Yeah, it just felt like it felt like the best sex you've ever had or something. Like it was just like almost like, oh my god, like total euphoria.
Yeah.
Both physical and mental euphoria. But yeah, it was a year, and so during that year, everything was on pause. Like I couldn't DJ. I DJ'd once that year, trying to sort of like, I was just trying to like, I don't know, test myself, I guess.
Yeah,
like,
that's brutal.
But
man.
like I came home completely just like, fuck, I can't do that anymore. And so then I didn't play music. I didn't do anything. I literally only watched Law and Order for an entire year. Law and Order SVU, Law and Order Criminal Intent.
That was it.
It was always on TV, and I just always watched it. And that was the only way I got through it.
What year was this?
2000. So it was October 2003 when it happened, and then I came out of the hospital in January.
That's insane, man.
Yeah.
I remember hearing about back then. I was like, holy shit, Moon told me about it. I think, yeah. It's crazy, man.
I mean, it was, I will say this, when I also couldn't walk for 6 months because my pelvis was broken.
Were you living by yourself at the time? You had somebody?
I had a roommate, but Rob Fish took me in and sort of like basically took care of me.
Oh, that's great, man.
Until I could sort of get back on my feet.
Yeah.
And that period of time, I will say, like, it's a privilege. I mean, this is a weird thing to say, but it's a privilege to have 6 months to just lay in bed.
Yeah.
And to think about your life, because like everything that's happened since is a result of that time, and me really sort of like putting everything I am and everything I thought I believed to the fire.
Yeah.
And being like, what here is extra? What here is not applicable anymore? What here is just some old facet of my personality that was maybe a vestige of the closet. What, and I was fucking brutal. It was like a total house cleaning. What people are not adding value to my life? What people are actually fucking hurting me?
Yeah.
Like that type of stuff was like very much on the table. And, and that's really what led to that conversation that I had with my mom. Like it was basically like, she's still fucking hurting my life.
Yeah.
I still feel like I am acting out to spite her, even though she doesn't even know what I'm doing.
Yeah. That's fucking powerful. Yeah.
It's like, it's crazy that we fucking do this stuff where it's like, we think we're spiting these people.
They don't even know. Yeah.
They don't even, yeah. There's nothing, you're just spiting yourself. It's insane. You're literally hurting yourself, thinking you're hurting other people. And it's like, I was like, I can't do this anymore. That was when I officially sort of like, was like, yo, I can't even like pretend to be a Hare Krishna. Like, I'm an atheist. It's like, that's kind of a deal breaker. And so all these things sort of came to a place where I could crystallize a clear picture of what I wanted in my life, that I think honestly, like, it's a blueprint that I'm still sort of like working through.
Yeah. You feel like you're in a good place now in your life?
Mostly. But I think, it's tough. Like when you put on, and actually this is perfect for you. When you put on the face of positivity, it's really easy for people to think that you're just like, you figured it out.
Yeah.
And
I always like to say I definitely didn't figure it out. I'm not perfect. I don't wake up every day and skip to my backyard. Life's great. Everything's wonderful. Like a tampon commercial, like fucking stay free. But no, I mean, it's a struggle, obviously. But I've always tried. I've always been like that. Look to the positive. I don't know. I always see the best in people, which may be like a bad thing of myself. My wife says, you always think everybody's good. The whole world's not good.
Right.
I don't know.
Right. I mean, so I think that's the thing for me is that like people tend to frame my story and the different aspects of my story as a story where I've overcome adversity or I've fought through to the other side. and I'm like, I fucking hate those stories because they're not true. It's not like I came to the other side and it's like the end. No, I still got fucking, I don't even know how many lives left to live. Like I'm like, I didn't think I would live this long, to be honest. So like the story's not over.
It's not over.
And I'm still fucking up.
Still learning.
I'm still learning. I'm still suffering. I'm still dealing with trauma. I'm still like trying to check my actions and be like, are you just being reactionary or are your movements deliberate? Are you doing things because they're the right thing for you or are you still spiting other people?
Yeah.
Like what are you doing? How are you living? This is every fucking day of my life. I'm not on the other side and I'm still in the shit basically.
I think closure with your brother or somebody is really important, man. I'm not a therapist, but that's like one of the last people you can really talk to.
I mean, I've definitely thought about it a lot and over many years, but there's a sense of, I think that I've thought about this too. The whole concept of closure, again, it sort of implies that there's an end.
True.
And I'm not really sure that there will be an end.
How about answers? Answers
are interesting, but to what end? So like, is that answer really going to improve my life in some sort of way? If I thought so, I probably would have reached out
already.
Yeah. But I feel like that answer might just make me angry. That answer might and what am I going to do? Who do I direct that anger towards? It's like, I feel like maybe closure is an internal project. It's not contingent on doing something.
Yeah.
Maybe it's contingent on saying, this happened. This is my life as it is. How do I work with that?
Yeah, moving forward.
Yeah. Because it's like, and that's how I've tried to sort of like, especially with the abuse part. I think that that's a really difficult sort of situation to be in, especially because, growing up, I remember like in the 80s, there was a lot of focus on, sexual abuse.
Yeah.
That was like the big boogeyman, But I always think about that episode of Good Times with Janet Jackson.
I remember that. I think,
where Penny is being abused by her mother, and then they find out, and it's like this whole thing. But it was like that was the only very special episode on TV that I can remember that dealt with child physical abuse, violent physical abuse, and that to me, I'll never forget that episode because it was like I felt seen, right? Like it was like, wow, this is other people. But I feel like, I've always struggled with it because I don't think that people take it as seriously as they do child sexual abuse. And I think that sucks because it leaves a lot of children not knowing where to go, or a lot of children staying in the ambiguity of, well, everybody gets spanked.
Yeah.
Or everybody, gets something happens where the parent freaks out and hits the kid or something, and for a long time, like, that's what I thought. I just thought, yeah, well, everybody I know. Normal. Yeah. That's what I thought. But again, you get to that place where you realize like, no, actually the severity and quantity and like, you know, the amount of times that I'm getting completely fucking destroyed here is not normal and should never be normal. And there was, it definitely felt like there was no one there to speak for me.
Yeah.
And so that's something that I feel that's like another part of my life that I would say is very unresolved, right? Like, because you are the first person who has to sort of accept what happened to you. And that took me ages.
Yeah.
Like, if you had asked me when I was 25, I would have been like, oh, you know, my parents hit me, but it wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
Right. But meanwhile, it's like, no, I realize like, fuck. Like now when I think about the last time my mom tried to beat me, I was 12 and I punched her.
Wow.
And I was like, I was surprised, but I was also like at the stage where I was like almost as tall as she was. And I was kind of like, okay.
Yeah.
If we're going to do this, let's do this. Like it was really just, and I remember she looked at me and she was just like, I can't believe you hit your own mother. And I was like, you have been fucking beating the shit out of me my entire life. Yeah. I was like, we're just now at this place where this is not going to happen anymore. And if it does, I'm going to fight back. Damn. So get ready. And she never touched me again.
Really?
Yeah, that was that.
Wow, dude.
So it was like, on one hand, it's like, look, that sounds fucking horrible, but I at least stopped it.
Yeah.
And like, I'm lucky I stopped it. I don't know, like, you know, a crazier mom might have escalated shit and it could have gotten crazy.
Yeah.
But, you know, this is all stuff that like I think about and I live with every day. Like, you know, I don't want people to ever think that I'm just like, you know, telling these stories because like, you know, they put me in some sort of sympathetic light or some shit like that. Like I'm telling these stories because literally this is what's on my mind every day still.
Wow.
48 years old. And I'm still thinking about what happened to me when I was 8, you know? And it's like, is there ever going to be closure for that? I don't think so. I don't think there can be.
All the therapy in the world can't. Yeah.
No, I've done it. I've done all the therapy in the world.
all kinds too, yeah.
At best, my therapists are like, you should be way more fucked up than you are.
Really?
They've literally said that. More than one.
Are you married now or have a partner?
I have a partner. We've been together for 16 years, but we're not married.
Would you want to have a kid?
You know, I thought at one point in my life that I wanted one, but he was never that keen on it. And truthfully, I don't mind not doing it because like I do feel like it's a kind of pressure that my psyche would not withstand because I'm sort of an obsessive person.
Okay.
And even when I had my dog Bosie, I was like a helicopter parent. I think I would drive a kid miserable.
Okay.
I think John, on the other hand, would be an amazing dad, but I would be a problem.
Are you optimist or pessimist?
I think that most people would say that I'm an optimist, but mostly in the sense that like I think I'm more of a pragmatist. I very much just feel like it's important to just look at something for what it is and just be realistic about it and be like, okay, so this is the situation, right? Like, are we going to fucking freak out about it and talk about all the catastrophes, or are we going to just fix it?
Yeah. I like that.
I want to fix it. Yeah.
What was like the last real job you had?
Real estate.
That was the last one.
Yeah.
And you might go back to that? After Thursday.
It's tough, man. Real estate's like, here's what I found, unfortunately, in my life is that I can be really good at things that I don't really love. And I was in the best position of doing real estate I was working with a small group of people that I really loved. And, my quote unquote boss was fucking Keith from Cause for Alarm.
So cool.
I mean, he's amazing, and I loved working with him, and I think he loved working with me. But it was, at the end of the day, like, I'm having a thing right now where it's very much like I just want to wake up and like feel like I'm doing something that like really matters to someone. Yeah. And yes, it's like I was helping people with real estate, especially first time buyers.
And music has helped people.
But music is something that like, yeah, that's the thing. It's like, it doesn't have to be music, but music is certainly something that falls in that place.
Totally.
You can't do something for 30 years and have people be like, you fucking saved my life, and not take that seriously.
It's true.
So, that's my main thing right now. It's just like whatever I do next, like I just want to feel like I'm doing something that matters to people.
Yeah. Do you still live on Biggie Small Street?
I do.
So this is where Christopher Wallace actually lived with his mom?
Yeah, across the street.
Wow. Obviously, she's not there no more.
No. And that apartment building's now like a fucking co-op.
Really?
Yeah.
So were you there when it was apartment or no?
I'm not sure. I first moved to that block in 2005, I want to say. Wow. So
what's the street called?
St. James Place. But now they've changed it to Christopher Wallace Way.
Wow, man, that's so cool.
It's still like the overarching St. James Place. I used to live further on St. James Place, across the street from the apartment complex where Lil' Kim grew up.
Wow.
And then I moved closer to Biggie's house.
Were you a Biggie fan?
Yeah, I love it. I mean, I love hip hop. I've always been. That's never left my DNA. That's like, and even like I talk to people about like guitar. And, I've told you, like, my first instrument was drums. Mm-hmm. I couldn't keep playing drums because I lived in New York. And, like, people don't want to hear that shit.
Yeah, that's true.
But so I started playing guitar. But I still feel like I play guitar like a drummer.
Okay.
And, like, and it's one of the reasons why, like, I still love that era of hip-hop. Because I feel like the beats are they're more driving. Ooh. And sort of, like, trap is all about, like, that sort of, like, low slung, laid back kind of beat where like it's more almost resting on the hi-hat than it is on the kick and the snare. Whereas like the beats of the 90s,
incredible, man.
It was just way more like just pumping and driving, and sort of like it had that energy that I still sort of crave.
Yeah. What were some of your favorite hip hop groups in the 90s?
I mean, like I mean it's hard to fucking discriminate from like the EPMDs and like all that shit.
Gangstar.
Like like it's like basically New York, Mobb Deep, like shit like that. Like that was like,
I know, man.
I actually Mobb Deep is a fucking great example of a record where it's like you can walk down any street in New York and feel like
100%. Such a crazy soundtrack, man.
Yeah, just listening to that, it makes you feel like, okay, like I'm a survivor.
Yeah, it's so true. Do you like De La and Tribe and all that stuff?
Yeah, I mean, De La came out when I was living in Massapequa, and they were from Amityville, which was right next door.
Yeah. So cool.
So they were like a huge thing.
Public Enemy.
That was also like they were Long Island at that time,
right?
Too. So
yeah, Busta Rhymes from Long Island. He was the New School from Long Island. Rakim's from Long Island.
We were watching MTV Classic on the bus the other day. And it was just like nonstop Busta.
It's incredible though. I just saw him perform Wu-Tang. It was incredible, dude.
I was actually saying when we were watching, I was like, Busta has one of those things where it's like, I don't know that I love him as a rhymer, right? Like I never think of like, he's a performer, but also the tone of his voice is the thing that I want to hear.
It's incredible, dude.
It's like, I can't even like explain what it is about it, but it's just like when I hear it, I want to hear more of it.
Yeah.
I can't possibly tell you a Busta fucking couplet where I'm like, that's sick.
Yeah.
Like, but I don't care. I'm sort of like, I just want to hear him say it.
Yeah. And listening to hip hop too is a lot of homophobia as well.
Still.
Especially back then.
Yeah.
I love Lil Nas X, man.
Yeah.
I think he's gangster as fuck. He's punk rock as fuck. Like, so incredible, especially now. Like,
speaking of sort of things that make me fucking tear up, I literally cried the morning I listened to his album when it came out.
oh wow, it's amazing, man.
Because I was really just like, I mean, I don't know, like I was just listening to it and it was like, I just sort of loved the way his queerness was just sort of folded into what he did in a very non-contrived way. Like he knew when he was trying to fucking poke the tiger, and then he also knew when he was just trying to express something that was real to him. And just hearing that shit was just like, and not just hearing it, but knowing that this was being validated by millions of people. It was a very sort of like emotional thing for me. Like, cause it's like, there have been queer hip hop artists like, you know, over the last, 40 years, but they're marginalized. Largely
100%.
They're doing their thing in their underground scenes and like, whatever. Like, I think, there is, I don't know if you've ever heard Cakes to Killer.
No.
But he's this Brooklyn guy. He was actually on, for a second, he was on that, what was the name of that? It was an HBO Max, like rap competition show.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And he went on for a minute, but they didn't get it because he's almost like, I don't know if you know this word, banji.
What's it mean?
Banji is like, comes from the ballroom scene.
Okay.
So ballroom is a predominantly Black and Latino sort of underground culture, very trans inclusive. It's where voguing began.
Oh, nice.
And
Okay,
like,
okay.
so there's also this style of emceeing in ballroom that's very just like, because ballroom beats are a little different than any other kind of beat. It's more like clack, 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 clack. It's like, it's very like, and so the cadence that you need to fucking rhyme to those beats are just like, they're not like what you hear in like mainstream hip hop.
Okay.
And Cakes to Killer definitely, that's the sort of flow that he's bringing, even to like, quote unquote regular hip hop beats that aren't like ballroom beats. And I don't think they understood it.
Okay.
But they definitely understood his fucking swag because he was just coming in and a lot of his rhymes were about how he's going to take your man and like, but he comes in with this like real reality and just like, I love his delivery, everything about him. He's just super confident. And now it's like he raps over, he's got like hip hop tracks. He raps over house tracks.
Oh, that's cool.
Raps over ballroom tracks, but like his shit's really, really good. And
he's the killer.
Yeah. And he's a real lyricist to me, which I think is something that also like, I feel like it's been lost a little bit. Like when we talk about like the rock hymns of the world and like shit like that, like real lyricists, people who are just like, you hear those couplets or something and you're like, damn, like I've only ever been to one like legitimate hip hop studio session, recording session.
When that was?
It was in, this must've been like 96 maybe. And it was, so Zach De La Rocha was in New York.
Wow.
And he was like, calls me up and he's like, yo, I'm doing a track tomorrow with KRS-One.
Damn.
He's like, do you want to come? And I was like, dude, are you fucking serious?
That
like,
is
yes.
Amazing, man.
So we go to the studio. And so it turns out, and there's probably like 10 people in the studio. It's very like, when you watch VH1 and like there's 10 people in the studio going, oh shit. It was like that. So there was a producer, a bunch of other people I didn't know. There was this guy, Last Emperor, who comes from like the Raucous Records kind of world at that time. And he was also going to be on the record. And then Zach and KRS-One. So producer comes in and he's like, yo, fucking, let's do this shit. They're like, who's up first? Who's going to do it first? And Last Emperor's like, yo, I'm up. I'll do this. So he goes in and Zach and I had never heard Last Emperor before. So we didn't know what to expect. He comes in, fucking wordplay, lyricism, like one take, like just fucking does his verse, killer. Like he's like, all right, I'm gonna do some doubles now. Goes in, does his doubles. Then he's like, all right, I got some sound effects. Goes in, does some sound effects. We're sitting there like, holy shit, this guy is fucking real. Like it was so sick. Then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, door opens. It's like a fucking movie. KRS-One, fucking 9 feet tall.
Big dude.
He's a big dude. Walks in. He walks in and acknowledges everyone in the room, like walks in, shakes everyone's hand. What's up? What's up? What's up?
Cool.
What's up? What's up? Goes through the whole room and then goes straight into the booth. Does his shit. One take. Does his doubles. Like, and you know, his fucking voice is so massive.
It is, man.
That when he just like starts spitting, it's like everybody's just like, fuck, he just owns the room.
Yeah.
And it's one of those, again, like the reason I was bringing this up was because it's, I was talking about those couplets where everyone in the room is like, oh shit. You know, that's what the whole fucking session was like. And every time somebody said a singer, it was just like, damn, you know, so, and it was so much fucking fun, but it was hilarious because at the end of all that,
Zach goes up.
Zach's supposed to go up and he literally is like, yo, I'm gonna come back.
Really?
And
you guys left?
He wound up rescheduling because he was just like, yo, that was too intense. Like those two dudes like just fucking came in with fire. Like I gotta fucking rewrite my verse.
So that song's probably out. It came out.
It's out now. It's called CIA Criminals in Action.
Wow, dude, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's on Spotify still, but it's like it's a great song. It was really funny though. I will say this
Sick
was
New York
that
moment, dude.
there's a part in the chorus where KRS-One goes, he names everybody in the song. And he's like, Last Emperor, KRS-One, and Big Zach. And I remember we were leaving, and Zach was like, yo, how do you tell KRS-One you don't want to be Big Zach?
Holy shit.
But anyway,
that is amazing.
It was a fucking great
I just saw you went to see them play too, right?
I did, yeah.
It looked amazing, man.
They were fucking great.
I want to see it out here when it comes through. It didn't come through proper LA, but
they canceled it.
Yeah, with Run the Jewels is on there too.
It's all done.
Because of his leg, right? Or something.
Yeah.
Damn.
He really, really fucked up his leg. And like he was like, I talked to him a little bit about it, and
you've been in touch this whole time, right?
No, actually we've lost touch over time. But you know, like it's been years since I saw him, so it was like really fucking sweet to reconnect.
That's cool, man.
And you know, he was just saying, he was like, yeah, it was like you know, we've talked about aging in hardcore.
Yeah.
This is sort of the same situation because I was saying to you before we started recording, like I feel like I've been injuring my fucking body nonstop for the last year and a half.
Yeah.
And there's sort of like, you know, there's a point where it's like you kind of just can't have shame about it. Your body is your body.
Yeah.
Your body's going to age.
Totally.
It gets hurt easier. It heals harder. It's just what it is.
Yeah.
And so like, you know, when he told me the story and he was just like, yeah, he's like, I was, you know, he's like, I wasn't doing anything that I'd never done before.
Yeah.
But like, I like heard/felt this pop, and I thought that maybe I kicked something on the stage.
Yeah.
Cause I'd heard it, you know?
Yeah.
And I looked around and I was like, fuck. There's nothing for me to kick.
Yeah.
And he's like, that's when it hit me. And I was just like, oh shit, like I gotta fucking go, you know, lean on something or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, and I think the rest of that show, he like sat on a side fill or something.
Is
but
he
like,
50? He's gotta be up there, man.
Yeah, he's in his 50s.
Wow.
Yeah.
He looks great though. It sounds great. And
Yeah. But that's the thing. I mean, like then I saw them play, you know, in Madison Square Garden, and it was like he's just like sitting on a box, and he was still just like you couldn't take your eyes off of him. Still
the
has
crowd's still going crazy. And
all.
like,
Yeah, I mean, it was like there's something about that. There aren't really that many. Like, remember, like I've talked about this before, where I said how like there used to be these types of frontmen that like. You couldn't take your eyes off of,
Yeah.
you know, the blood clots of the world, or like,
Yeah.
you know, just people that were just like HR and like, you know,
Yeah.
just like, fuck, you know, I really feel like Zach was one of the last greats that like you see him and it's just like, I can't take my eyes off of him. I know him. I know, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, and it's just like, but when he's on stage, it's like, he's a superhero.
Yeah, it's true.
And it's fucking
Great point.
It's crazy. It's like that charisma or that, I don't even know what it is. It's just that fucking thing.
Or that, yeah.
You can't create it.
Yeah, I want to see them. I haven't seen them since they first were coming out. I think it was like Rage Against the Machine, House of Pain or something.
Oh,
back
wow.
then. Yeah,
that was a long
like
time ago.
At the Academy.
Jeez.
It's been a long time, man, though, for sure. So now you're on tour with Thursday.
Yeah.
And you have a couple more shows this year.
Yeah. Well, we're actually out till like December 19th or something. Yeah.
And then anything next year?
No. Basically, when December comes around, Thursday is going to sort of like like the primary members of Thursday are basically going to have a conversation about what the hell are we?
Yeah.
And I'm going to have to figure out
next chapter,
sort of like how, like, you know, I've told those guys, like, as long as, you know, I can continue to keep doing it, I love playing with them, and touring with them is great. You know, it's interesting, like, because people often ask about this sort of like, what is the state of Thursday? You know, like, because there's like guys in the band that are still in the band. Tom and Tim are still in the band. Yeah. Me and Stu right now are touring. Yeah. And we sort of joke about it as like, almost like the Marvel Cinematic Universe of Thursday. Like where it's just sort of like, we have all these like talented people around us, and, you know, let's just sort of just be. Like, why do we have to have so many rules about like
just having fun, just playing, man.
Yeah, like
no stress.
Just let it be. And I think that we're at a time right now where like everybody's rethinking, what does it mean to be in a band? What does it mean to make a record? Yeah. Does anybody want a record? You know, like
true.
At the drive-in put out one, people were like, okay, cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, like it's sort of like maybe people just want singles at this point. Who knows? You know, so it's like, it's an interesting time, because I do think that somewhere in the next few years, we're going to see a variety of different ways of being in terms of what it means to be a band.
Yeah.
And I think that that's partially because so many bands now are even like, either, you know, people are, again, we're getting back to the same sort of topics, like you're aging now, you have kids, maybe you can't tour, or you're, or maybe you now live in different places, like H2O, you all live in different places, right? Like, so it's like, you've got to sort of figure out, like, are we going to keep this going? And if so, how? What does it look like? Yeah. You know, you can do that now because of the internet.
Easy.
Way more than you could do before. Yeah. So we're still not fully there, but I think that we're going to find that there are going to be a lot of different models for what a band is.
Yeah, I think you're right. Especially coming out of this 2 years of not playing shows, and it's crazy, right? There's so many shows, there's so many things happening at once, and I think they're all kind of affecting each other different ways. Yeah. I hear a lot about that in Europe right now. There's like 5 different tours right now, and in Europe, kids will go out to a show like every night of the week and see every band, but now things have changed in the world, man. There's different things going on. So when the Antimatter, it's going to be anniversary next year?
Yeah. Next year is 30 years from the first issue.
We got something exciting coming.
Which is fucking crazy.
30 years, that's crazy. 30 years is crazy, man.
Oh, my God.
It's a long time, man.
I just realized it like 6 months ago and was just like, that's fucking... I mean, I don't even know. Like, I shouldn't be around doing this, talking about this 30 years later, but here we are.
You are. And that means it had an impact, man. It's beautiful, man.
So people, I mean, basically, so for the last bunch of years, people have been asking about, because the original book came out in 2007, and then that's been out of print for a while now, and people have been asking about a second edition. There will be a second edition next year, which is going to be very different from the first. Mm-hmm. I'm still sort of like formulating what that looks like, but I want to focus more. The first edition was very much about doing something that was reader friendly. I wanted to do something that you could put in your backpack and read on the subway, and like more like a, you know, like a book, like a novel or something. But like this version is going to be a lot more visual. It's going to speak a lot more to where we are in 2022 as opposed to 2007, which we're in now, like this hyper visual culture. And, you know, in 2007, the most we had was MySpace. Yeah. And, you know, now it's just like we're in fucking, you know,
it's crazy, man.
HTML5 and fucking, you know, like whatever the fuck. It's a completely different thing. So the book is going to reflect that. It's going to be a lot more visual. It's going to be a bigger format. And I wanted to specifically to focus on the fanzine itself and on the story of the fanzine, which is something that I think is important to me. It's a second story to tell. Yeah. Because I think that, you know, sort of like what I was saying about like how I think I used Antimatter in a way to prime people for what I wanted to do musically.
Texas, like different types of music.
Yeah. Like I also though think that it played a role in sort of like being this fulcrum between the early 90s, which was obviously still sort of the early 90s I would define as like everybody from the 80s trying to figure out what the fuck they were doing.
Yeah, what they're going to do next.
Yeah. The mid 90s felt like a crystallization. People started figuring it out.
Yeah.
And what we got as a result was like a variety of different fucking sounds and different like scenes, and like things were great. And then the late 90s was really like the beginning of sort of internet culture.
Yeah.
And sort of how that was going to just like, now it was going to put a light on everything that happened before it in a way where all these scenes could be rediscovered. And people who didn't have access to these scenes, even in 1995, now we're talking about it on message boards.
Yeah.
We're trading MP3s. And it basically led the way for what happened in the early 2000s when all these bands started breaking, like in the mainstream.
Yeah.
Because they had access. Mm-hmm. So Antimatter was sort of, plop in the middle. It was 1993 to 1996. And it was, I believe it was that connective tissue that sort of like because there weren't a lot of people that were connecting or could connect, let's say the 80s to the mid 90s at that point. A lot of people from the 80s had just dropped out.
They did.
And people who were doing fanzines were mostly kids of the 90s. So I feel like, I had this very unique place where I could do a fanzine where one issue had Cause for Alarm, Shudder to Think, and Snapcase.
Yeah.
And then like, how can you do that and make it feel like you're telling one cohesive story? That's, to me, what Antimatter was. It was basically saying we're all the same.
Yeah. I love that. And to tie it in with the podcast, that's why I love about the podcast, that me and you met before, we've talked before, we never really hung out. This is the most we ever hung out. And I love the pod because we are all connected through music. And Texas Racing may sound nothing like H2O or anything, but we're of the same mind in a lot of ways. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think it's awesome. And now we're like grown-ass sort of adults in our 40s and 50s. And we're talking about it. It was had such an impact on people, man. Like you said, Antimatter probably helped a lot of kids and opened their minds to a lot of things. And that's awesome. That's what I love about this music, how it's kept us all connected. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like international community.
I did write the bio for Hazen Street, though.
Oh, that's right. You did, right? Holy shit. Out the end. Really? That's right.
That's fucking funny shit.
Who hired you for that? Epic?
Girly Action.
Good Charlotte? DC Flag? Girly Action. Yeah.
Holy
crap. You wrote Hazen Street's bio. That is like, that's a sick one on here. That's a sick
I
gem.
was really psyched when you guys were playing again.
Oh, thank you, man. That was really fun to make. It was super fun to make that record. It was, I don't know. I love those songs.
It's a great record.
Thank you, man. Wow, you wrote that bio. That's crazy. Thank you. I'm going to go back and look at it, actually. That's sick.
That was actually, and that is an interesting bio to write because it was after Freddie got out. Mm-hmm. And my first interview ever, the first interview I ever did with anyone was with Roger after he got out.
Wow.
So it was really like...
That's crazy.
Yeah, like that felt like, oh, I feel like inclined to write this.
That is so cool, man.
Yeah.
I forgot about that. I got to read that bio. Thank you for that. Well, thank you for being here, man. Thank you for everything you put out into the world. And I know you're still fighting with like stuff in your past and like demons and life things, but on a positive note, I feel like you should know that your music and everything you put out there help people, you know what I mean, in a positive way. Even if it doesn't help you personally, you helped a lot of people too, you know what I mean?
I mean, it has helped personally. I
Yeah,
think
I'm
it's
sure.
one of the reasons.
Though.
Yeah, it's one of the reasons why I'm not as fucked up as I should be.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, hardcore and all that. I mean, everything, all your writings and songs, all that stuff. I feel like it's total therapy, man.
Yeah.
I just started going to a therapist. I'm really proud of myself, so it's a big deal from 852.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That was a big. I mean, not to fucking derail the closing real quick, but like, but I mean, like, there was a thing in Antimatter where, I was interviewing Richie Birkenhead.
Best.
And I said to him, I was like, what have you been up to today? Like, that was like the first question. And he was like, he's like, I just got back from therapy.
Wow. Back then.
And this was 94. And I was like, he was the first person who ever said that to me.
Shout out to Richie, man.
Yeah.
He's the best, man. He posted this picture the day on Edge Day. And I wrote something to him, and he brought something back to me. It was really nice, old picture of him X'd up. Like, it was so cool. But I loved Underdog, man. What an incredible band. Into Another, dude.
But that was a huge part. Is like,
him out of all people mentioned,
right, because Richie used to be like fucking
badass.
Yeah,
he was a gnarly dude, like the Pyramid Club or all those clubs. Yeah.
Like he was someone to be feared.
Yeah.
And even like, I mean, I loved getting to know him because I was like, this dude is actually fucking sweet as fuck.
So sweet, dude. He's so sweet, man. I saw him not too long ago, and I'm happy for him, man. He's living his life,
but normalizing therapy.
Yes,
you're doing it. Fucking, that's sweet.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it. It's gonna be a journey for me. My wife and son are totally proud because we've talked about it a million times. Nobody in my family's ever gotten therapy. And me and my brothers, my dad died at a very young age. There was no closure. We didn't go to the funeral. There's all kinds of resentment with my mom. I'm sorry, Mom, if you're listening. But we talked about these things.
Yeah.
But I'm really happy to have somebody to speak to that's not just like a stranger,
Yeah.
I'm excited for the journey. I'm kind of scared. Like, what if they find something that I blocked out that I wish I never knew and shit like that?
They will.
They will? They will? And then all of a sudden I know this thing that I wish I never knew and the rest of my life.
Well, you know what's funny is that it's not that they're going to draw it out necessarily. Sometimes that happens. That's happened to me once where I was just like, it was a weird thing where I had this therapist who was a gay therapist. It was my first gay therapist. And it felt like everything I said to him, he would bring it back to being gay. And I stopped going to him partially because I was like, this doesn't all have to do with being gay.
Yeah.
Like I was like kind of mad.
Damn.
And many years later, I was like, oh, you know what it is like I was still compartmentalizing being gay. And I did not have the wisdom to understand that you can't compartmentalize something that is so every part of your being.
Yeah.
When you were a child in the closet, you were policing how you moved your hands. You were policing how you spoke.
Your mannerisms, yeah.
You were policing what you wore. Anything that could give you away, anything that was a tell. You were so fucking trapped into every detail of your fucking life.
Yeah.
And now you're going to compartmentalize it? No.
Yeah.
It's a part of every part of you.
Yeah.
And that realization fucking opened up so many things for me. So, gay therapist, you were right. I apologize.
You still go to therapy, right?
I haven't in a while. I took some time off.
Okay.
But the last therapist I had, I really liked. But it's really difficult because I feel like, the thing about therapists or therapy in general is that you really do need to. It's a stranger, yes, but there needs to be some level of compatibility.
Totally.
And for it to really work.
Yeah.
And so my last guy, I did feel a level of compatibility, but it also felt like I was sort of spinning the wheels a little bit too much. But I think what you're going to find is that it's not so much what they tell you, it's whether or not you have the wherewithal to actually sit there, speak truthfully, and listen to yourself.
Yeah.
And when you listen to yourself, sometimes sometimes it's hard, but it's also sometimes it's like, you realize like, oh shit, like I just actually said something that I thought was this big deal. But in my mind, I'm like, now hearing me say it out loud, I'm like, oh, you're being fucking stupid as shit.
Yeah.
Or that's fucking petty or like whatever it is.
Yeah.
Just saying things out loud a lot of times has the power to make you reassess how you feel about something.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm excited for the journey. I'm going to keep you posted on it.
Definitely.
Well, thank you for being here, man.
Thank you.
This was awesome, man. I really like when I just have one convo and I feel like I don't know, I just learned so much about a person, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And yeah.
I appreciate it.
Stoked to hang out with you in real life someday again.
It'll happen.
All right, thanks everybody. Bye. Check. Norman, hi. We're back on the pod, ladies and gentlemen. The pod is out today. A couple of days from now, it's your birthday, so happy early birthday, Norman. And we jumping back on this pod because since we recorded this podcast, we talked about antimatter originally on this episode, but now it's back. Well, it's coming back. So explain. Let's talk about it.
Right. So when we talked about it on the first conversation, it was in a state of unknown.
Yeah.
And, I sort of had a hunch that I'd be doing something for, a second edition of the book or something like that, because this is the 30-year anniversary of the zine.
Wow.
And I just felt like, okay, that's fucking crazy.
It
But the more I started thinking about it over the year, and I sort of went back and forth with a lot of things, the more I started realizing that maybe like the the problem for me was that I'm really into doing things that feel like a present concern.
Yeah.
And so I was having difficulty sort of mustering up the attention and sort of passion to work on something that I felt like, was a part of my legacy, but was basically in the past.
Mm-hmm.
And I started thinking about where we are right now in hardcore in 2023. And I started to have these like feelings of like, actually, this is really weird, but like hardcore in 2023 feels a lot like hardcore in 1993.
It's incredible right now, man.
It's really
I
wild.
can't
Like
believe
there's
it
a
right
lot
now.
of sort of like exciting new styles and sort of
Yes.
like there's a lot of, mixed bills are happening again.
Yes.
And there's that brush with commercial success that everybody's sort of like got their, looking at and going, oh God, is that good or bad? And that was sort of the same thing in 1993. You was sick of it all, signing to a major. Oh my
Good
God,
point.
what the fuck? Right.
Yeah.
So a lot of these things sort of started to feel like, it wasn't history repeating itself, but it was rhyming. And it was feeling like a sense of, okay, when I started Antimatter in 1993, one of my sort of objectives was that I felt like the scene had grown into something really cool, really interesting, and really diverse.
Yep.
And I didn't feel like there was a place where people could go and just have like a conversation about who they were. Right. That was really what Antimatter was. It wasn't really like, I didn't ask questions about music even. Like I just kind of wanted to know, who are you? What's your deal? And for whatever reason, those types of conversations, I started to feel like the people decided that they were necessary because they responded to them. And that was amazing. And so again, thinking about 2023, I mean, we've got like great podcasts like yours, but in terms of like print or online print for that matter, I just wasn't seeing the types of conversations that like I wanted to have with people. And it felt like maybe there was space for this. Maybe there was a time to revisit this. And I'll tell you, I was nervous about it. I wasn't sure about it. And then I did my first interview back with Crystal from Initiate.
Nice.
And I remember like getting out of the interview and being like, this is going to work. Because it was an amazing conversation. We really went deep, and, she really shared a lot of sort of like things that I could tell that were difficult for her to share, but it was sort of like, this was the point. I was really pressing her about like, well, this isn't really about other people. This is about you. What about you? Center yourself in this conversation. And I think people aren't used to centering themselves like that. And so you wind up getting some really interesting insights and stories and realizations like in the middle of interviews where people are just like, oh my God, fuck, I didn't realize that,
I feel the exact same way with this podcast, man. Like, just very therapeutic. People just more open. People talking about therapy. People talking about mental health. People that are our age are talking about it, are starting to tell more stories. Like, I know you're going to be talking to Mike Judge. I had him on my podcast like 3 times, and every time it's a different story. It's a different part of his life that he ends up being comfortable to talk about. And I feel like even back then, hardcore is very like, people had this like kind of hard kind of armor on them, especially in New York. With everything was just like, can't show emotion, got to be tough, got to have this like this tough guy pose. Just all these different versions of hardcore that weren't really like showing their, I don't know, their true selves. And I feel like the generation now that you're talking about, man, there's so much diversity in all these bands that are playing now. It's incredible, man. Like I can't explain, like going to see Verbal Assault with Gel and going to see Zulu 2 weeks ago sell out a record store on a Wednesday night, playing like a 17-minute headlining set. The crowd was crazy. And like just having these kids on my podcast and this where they're at with hardcore and what they think about the history of it and where and the time we had. And I don't know, it's a beautiful time, and especially because I live in California. I know it's the same with New York because I'm seeing footage of how crazy it is there, but I just feel like it's just thriving. This band Speeds from Melbourne, Australia, they're like one of the biggest hardcore bands right now. Like Sound and Fury is this massive festival coming up in a couple weeks out here. It's just like, everywhere. It's just beautiful to watch, especially as
I mean, it's
older
definitely feels
person.
like hardcore is bigger than it's ever been.
It does,
like,
man.
The scale is just insane at this point.
I know, and there's like sky's the limit. I feel like there's so many bands that like obviously we got Turnstile who I love, but I feel like they have like there's a bunch of bands. Not like they're the umbrella of it, but they're the ones.
Right.
I don't know. They're kind of setting the thing like, yo, you
Well,
can.
they were the breakout, right?
Yeah,
You know,
you can show your pop sensibility. You can show you like other music. You can have different styles. These kids are wearing like Cranberry shirts and Sunday shirt, all this
Right.
stuff that I fucking love, that you love, that like in the hardcore scene back then, like, oh, you can't listen to that type of music. It's only hardcore, you know?
Right.
But it's like I love that they don't give a fuck about showing. Like I had Zulu on, one of their favorite bands. One of Dez's favorite bands is Fall Out Boy. We talked like 20 minutes about Fall Out Boy. It's
Right.
so cool. And then Braxton loves Van Halen. He has a Van Halen tattoo. And these kids are in a hardcore band. I fucking love that. I mean, I love the open-mindedness of it. I love that they're like, fuck it, this is what we like. Even like Scowl.
Well, that's
like,
the
I
sort
love
of
it,
that's
man.
the sort of beauty of this stuff, because I feel like, having this 30-year window looking
Yeah.
between, starting Antimatter and sort of where I'm at now, and looking at sort of the evolution, and just realizing that when you have 30 years of a scene
Yes.
in transit, like, there are going to be kids who like literally like nobody knows who the fucking Abused are or something, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
true.
but like they know who Fall Out Boy was. That was their gateway drug. They know, and
Yeah.
that's cool.
I know.
And that's fucking great. And also, like, I think, Antimatter was certainly, it was sort of a zine that I felt like needed to happen, because at the time, like, I don't know if you recall, but it was like, I think I mentioned actually in the original pod where I was talking about Maximum Rock and Roll and that weird gatekeeping thing that they
Yes.
were doing, where they decided, we're going to decide what fucking is punk, right?
Yep.
And I always was like, that's fucking bullshit.
Same.
And even like you look at, Fall Out Boy, it's like, I'm sorry, those guys were hardcore kids. Like there was
Yes.
not like, this isn't like, oh no, they marginally listened to Green Day. Like, no, they were in fucking vegan straight edge bands.
and Hurley's still vegan straight edge. He still
Right.
is. Yeah.
So it's like,
Yeah.
I'm not going to be the gatekeeper who takes that away from them, right? Like, it's like, no, they just fucking followed their muse and did what was interesting to them, and to me, that's fucking hardcore.
Yeah, and
It's not their fault that it's fucking massive.
Yeah, and I'm sure like when we started coming around, and the bands that we liked, or the bands that we were in, the band you were in, the band that I was in, it was too melodic. It wasn't hard enough. It wasn't, we
Sure.
came from that world. But the gatekeepers and the old heads before us, I remember thinking, oh, H2O is not hardcore. They're too melodic. Or this band's not that.
Right.
You're like, there's always going to be people that think there's no blueprint to this shit. It's like. That's what I love
Right.
about hardcore, how it evolves and evolves different generations and the different versions of it. And it's beautiful to watch it, especially at 53 years old, still in the band for 30 years. We don't tour as much, but like, I don't know. I love just seeing it. I'm just proud of it and see where it's, how far it's come. And
For sure.
it's so
and
cool,
it's an
man.
absolute privilege. I think
Totally.
like, the last couple of years of playing with Thursday have, it doesn't sort of like, it's not lost on us. Like every night we're literally like so psyched.
Yeah, of course.
Every night we're just like, I can't believe we still do this.
Yeah, dude. I see it. I see you guys playing too.
And
It's
I think part
awesome.
of it is that feeling of like, there was no, I mean, this was something else that I'm sort of like exploring a little bit, I think, with Mike Judge actually later today. I'm saying how this sense of who we are now, like sort of, as arguable adults.
Yeah.
It's fascinating because there was no roadmap for this when we were younger. When we were 23, if someone was 27, it was like, whew, they've been doing this a long time, right?
Yeah.
And so what does it mean now for this new generation of bands who are like, oh, well, there are bands with people in their 40s and 50s. They're still fucking doing this. What does this mean about their imagination of the future and the possibilities of what hardcore can give them? Like for us, it was sort of like, at best, live fast, die young.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I mean, honestly, I was shocked when I turned 21, shocked when I turned 25, shocked when I turned 30. Like, I was just no, I'm supposed to die.
Yeah.
I don't know what the future is, but at this point now it's like, oh, the future is whatever the fuck I want it to be. That's fucking hardcore. And so that's sort of like where I'm at. And I feel like that's really the vibe that I want to bring to Antimatter. And I really want to keep it, it's a new, I guess the other part of it is that it's a new sort of platform for what I want to do. It's not a fanzine.
Okay.
So it's going to be available at antimatter.substack.com.
Oh, that's awesome.
It is. And essentially what I'd like to see happen, I mean, the only way that it can really happen is if it remains sort of a reader-supported publication, which I think online people have like weird ideas of what that means. But to me, it's basically saying, I'm going to basically give you a fanzine every month.
Mm-hmm.
If you were at a show, you wouldn't think twice about giving me $5 for it.
Yeah.
So maybe we can figure out this model together where I can just keep it open for everyone and readers support it because they support or value the work. Yeah. And I think,
I like that.
That's something that in punk, we've been sort of like taught to, I feel like, almost undermine our value. Right. And, I don't know where it comes from necessarily. Like the other day I was talking about how I was like, where did this $5 show thing really come from? Like, why $5? Like, I get Fugazi did that.
Yeah.
But it felt like they were the only ones who really could. And I felt like all the promoters were losing their shirts every time they booked a Fugazi show. So it was like, okay, like, is that really like what we want? Like, there has to be a way to create a balance.
I wonder why other bands didn't try to do that, or I'm sure they tried to do that.
I think other bands did try to do that, and to be honest, Texas is the Reason tried to do that.
You did?
I mean, not like in a way where we were as maybe vocal about it.
Yeah.
But there was a period of time early on where we were really trying to get promoters to do that, and they were just like, "No, you don't understand. Like,
overheads and all that shit.
Yeah, that doesn't even pay X, Y, and Z." And we were just like, okay, well, fuck.
Yeah, I wonder how it even worked. I mean, I wonder. I don't know. It's cool.
I don't know that it did work. Is the thing.
Yeah, it worked for them. It's just cool that it became like something that they did, just because it was such an incredible band. Like.
But then it was bizarre because it's sort of like it put other bands in a position of like feeling like shit if their show was $7, right? And it's like, okay, well, fuck, like, what, at the end of the day, all sort of like quote unquote punk business is really about, I think, two things. One is supporting each other, supporting the scene that we're in, and sort of being a part of that community. And I think that there's strength in sort of keeping, your economics inside of your own community. Like, there's something about that I think is very strong and powerful. And I would say that about any number of communities. But, the other thing I think is this sense of the value of work, which is something I've really been thinking about over the years, because, I've done a lot of things and I've had a good life, like no complaints. My life has been super rich. I've been not financially, but you know what I mean?
Health and happiness, man. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I've been, I've been fine. I've never gone without. Right.
Same.
And at the same time, there is this sense of like, I'm, reaching halfway to 100, as I call it.
Yeah, me too.
I don't own a house. I don't own a car. I don't have any assets. Like, I have basically what's in my bank account right now and the books on my shelf. And so, there is a sense of what are my assets? Meaning, like, what are the things that are really valuable? And I started to realize, like, the things that are valuable are the things that I've made, the things that I've put out into the world, and sort of like these creations. And I think that I feel value in them, and I feel like other people do as well.
For sure. And
so returning to Antimatter, I see this, as my assets. Like, this is my life. This is what I'm worth. I give, or I try to connect with people. I try to connect people with each other. I try to, make conversations that make people feel, safe and able to be who they are. And that's sort of what I think that's a gift, and I want to go back to it basically.
Yeah, and you were doing that 30 years ago when it really wasn't cool to talk about your feelings or talk about people being comfortable in their own skin, or you did that way back then. You gave them a platform and a place to feel safe back then, and now I feel like with podcasts, just with everything, with the bands that we talked about, diversity, what the bands were singing about, talking about, I feel like now more than ever, people they need that and they appreciate that. A safe place to come and just talk, and I don't know. I see it as a great thing, and why not? It is 30-year anniversary, and you're still part of the scene. You still love it. You're still supporting it. It's not like you're coming back to do it to capitalize on something that you said you grew out of 20 years ago. This has been your life.
Right.
You know what I mean? This has been your life. You live this life. It's like,
I mean, for better and worse, it's
totally.
Sort of, this is what I come back to.
I always say hardcore ruined and saved my life. I always say that.
But it's like, well, yeah, like I get that completely. But I do always go back to, it's like hardcore saved my life multiple times.
Yep.
Like whenever I was directionless and didn't know where I was going, something hardcore related brought me back into sort of like a place of knowing and a place of being and a place of belonging.
100%.
And whether it was just a hardcore person that did that, or a hardcore project or music or whatever it was like, I can't front on that. Like I can't. Like there were certainly parts of my life, I'm sure, where I was like, oh my God, fucking hardcore. Oh, what did I do?
Same.
But, I keep coming back for a reason. It's not because I'm a masochist, I swear.
Yeah. You know what I think also it's not anymore with this generation is how judgmental hardcore was for a second. How something that was supposed to be about, inclusive and open-mindedness, and we talked about this originally in the first conversation. Now I feel like it's actually really about that life. It's like really about that. Like everybody's fucking welcome, everything.
Even between the conversation that we had and now.
Yeah.
It
totally.
Feels like so much has fucking changed, because like I was saying the other day, like I was like, I feel like I'm hardcore Martin Luther King. And one day I was like, I had a dream. And now it's like, I'm looking out and it's like, holy shit. All the bands have like women or genderqueer or non-binary or people of color or like, and I'm just like, holy, like every major band right now
I know
has some level of diversity. And it feels like everyone just sort of like popped out at the same time, like this fully realized scene.
I know. And like, have you heard of Flat Spot Records?
Yeah.
That's Ricky from Backtrack from Long Island and his partner. I forgot his name. They're fucking crushing it, man. They're crushing it. It's beautiful. And then Rob Vitalo, who the singer from Backtrack, he manages Knock Loose and Turnstile, and he's a hardcore kid. It's incredible, man. Right. It's incredible. Right. I love that.
So it's really, I mean, I you can't predict these things. Things just happen, and I'm really looking forward to having conversations with a lot of these younger bands.
Yes.
To understand sort of that experience, because for me, as I told you before, like I had such a different experience, and
for sure.
And I want to know now, like, what's it like for a hardcore kid coming up now and seeing this, and this is the norm. This is what they're going to internalize as what hardcore sounds and looks like.
It's like people finally actually listen to the lyrics to Walk Together, Rock Together. Actually listen to the lyrics that these bands were singing about back then, where people were fighting during these songs, or like not listening to lyrics. Like even like Civ talks, whatever, Soundtrack for Violence. Like now it just seems like people actually like, yo, this is what it's really about. Community, unity, all that. And it's like just seeing that and going to these shows out here and like, man, it's like, it's amazing. I don't know, man. It's a beautiful thing.
And I think like the other aspect of this that I really want to sort of like point out or at least mention is the fact that I do think that there's this one other element of hardcore that can only have happened now, which is the truly intergenerational moment, right? Like the fact that we can now have connective tissue. It's almost like we can have hardcore ancestors at this point. It's been around for so long that it's like when you're talking about somebody who's hanging out in 1979 that's like an ancestor,
It is.
right?
I mean, we got
I mean, like,
Vinny Stigman. It's like mid-60s, still playing live.
right,
Killing
right.
it.
And I mean, like I was when I was talking to Crystal from Initiate, and she said, I'm 30 years old, and the first thing I
Wow.
thought was, wow, you're as old as my fanzine.
And my band's gonna be 30 years next year. Wow. Yeah,
Right.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And that's fucking amazing. And so obviously
Yeah.
someone who's coming in from that vantage point is going to have so much to share that with other generations, with my generation, right?
Yeah.
With our generation. Like, I want to learn from them as much as I hope they want to learn from us. Like, I
Yeah.
feel like that's goes back to sort of like a very hardcore thing to me, which was like that sense of, again, I don't know if I mentioned this on your pod, but I feel like this is something I would have said. That sense of like, remember how it was in the scene where people would really sort of like pay attention to how long you've quote unquote been around?
Yes. How long you been
Right?
down for? Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Check your papers.
But
Yeah.
there was exactly, there was a sense of respect for our elders, right? Like,
Yes.
I knew that. I was like, all right, this dude was at A7. I'm not stepping to him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. He knows something that I don't. But
Yeah.
now over time, we can all learn from each other.
Yeah.
We can respect what happened before. We can respect the people who fucking pioneered this for us.
Yeah.
It's that should be there too. But this element of sort of intergenerational learning, that's something that I really want to get into.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Dude, I love all this shit, man. I love the way it's going, just everything about it, man. I went to go see End It. I love this band End It, and I was talking to the singer Akil, and he's so freaking awesome, and it's a new generation of hardcore, and they're fucking awesome too. They're so fun. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
I don't know.
And I love that, like, even Thursday, like, we're going out on tour in September, and it's like, there's going to be bills that are like us with Gel and Koyo and Vinny Caruana. Like,
wow.
Not a single band in that lineup sounds like any of the other bands.
and I love that too, because that's a shit for the past 20 years. You only get that at a European festival. None of these diverse packages were happening in America at all, man.
And I feel like this is the moment where a bill like that happens, makes sense, and is cherished by the kids.
Yeah.
And I think like that's what I'm really looking for. Like, I always think nostalgically to like, like the second Texas is the Reason show, was with Mouthpiece, Ignite, Snapcase, and Donuts.
Wow.
It's like nobody treated us any different.
Yeah. Yeah.
We clearly didn't. We weren't metalcore. We weren't hardcore. We were.
Yeah.
There wasn't really an emo core like that was describing us yet.
Yeah.
It was just sort of we were what we were, and everybody was just like, "Yeah, you're in the scene. Cool."
Yeah, I love that. I'm excited. I'm excited for Riot Fest because I saw the same day we play. Obviously, The Cure plays that night, but that's later. But
so we're playing on the same day. Then.
Oh yeah, cool. With GB, Snapcase, Earth
Yep.
Crisis. Wow, you guys, that's so cool. Wow, that's a crazy lineup, man.
Yeah, it's really. I feel like this is the time for a lot of, or for a situation where we can really now look back and sort of like live inside of hardcore in the present and be proud of it, really. Because I feel like, just the fact that it's existed this long, first of all, it's fucking insane.
It's totally insane.
I certainly did not really ever think when I first started going to shows that this is where I would be so many years later.
Yeah.
But it is. And it's like,
it's a spirit. It's a spirit inside of us that we have, that a lot of people have, that like keeps us young, keeps us, I don't know, man. It's really special.
Yeah. And actually, it's funny you say keeps us young too, because I always keep thinking about how like there's this weird cognitive dissonance with older people in the scene now, where because everybody's just hanging out with everybody.
Yeah.
And nobody's, there used to be a time, I always remember like, there were like a couple people in the scene that were like clearly older than everyone else.
Yeah.
And the younger kids would go to the shows and be like, who's the old guy?
And he's only a couple years older too. Yeah.
Well, that's the thing, right? It probably was like 40 or something, maybe 30.
I mean, even at talk about skaters, like even like getting to meet and hang with Christian Sawyer or Cab, and like knowing them from the magazines, thinking they're way older than us, but they're really not. At least for me, they're not really that much older than me. But in the magazines back then, you think that they're like way older. I don't know.
One of the things that, and it's funny. So the Mike Judge interview will be the first proper interview back, and that'll be next week.
Awesome.
And when we do regular publication. But one of the things that I'm talking about with Mike is this part in our original interview. So I'm using my original interview with him as sort of a jump off point.
Oh, that's cool.
And one of the things that we talk about, I say, how old are you? And he says, I'm 27. And I go, and this is me talking. I say, wow, that's a long time to be doing this kind of thing.
Wow.
He's like, yeah, man. And he's talking to me like I called it like a retired coal miner.
Oh my God, dude.
And so, part of it is definitely going back and being like, let's go back to 27 years old for a second. What the fuck were we thinking?
Yeah. That's cool. You're going to have it as like that's the blueprint almost like from back then. Yeah.
Yeah. It's great to be able to have, that's the other,
cool.
The other sort of advantage of having a zine that sort of existed in the public consciousness this long is that I can go back to these conversations and have them again and say, okay, like Mike, it's been 29 years.
Where are you now?
Let's dig in.
Yeah. And they're still playing shows. It's crazy, man.
Yeah, exactly. And so this is really like, for me, launching Antimatter again, I'm really psyched. It's a complete like celebration of something, not just the zine, which I love because the zine is it was such a huge part of who I am, I think.
Yeah.
It was the way that I was able to tell you who I was, basically.
Yeah.
But it's also just sort of a celebration of the fact that, if Antimatter had like one guiding principle, it was that hardcore was more than music. Hardcore was not just a style of chords and beats, right? It was a community. It was an ethos. It's a way of being.
Yeah.
And I want people, especially like as hardcore is growing now and lots of new people are showing up, I really want them to also sort of like imbibe that, because I think that that's what keeps it alive. That's what keeps it going.
I love that. Yeah, it's perfect. And the fact that we're talking about it, you're talking to me on my podcast. You're about to bring Antimatter back. You're still playing music. You were right. It's more than music. It's way beyond music, man.
It has to be.
Yeah, it's so special, and it's no matter how big or small it got, or popular, or if it got on the radio or not, it's still something really special. It still feels really underground. It still feels really like a special place. I don't know.
It absolutely is.
Yeah.
And it's always going to be because of our experiences and our relationships.
Totally.
And that's really what the interviews that I do are about.
Mm-hmm.
It's what makes you hardcore, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And I just think that that's evergreen. That's never gonna change for me.
Yeah. Oh, fuck, man. This is great. This is almost just as good as the first part. Did we talk about did you I don't know if we talked about last pod, but you're the only guest I ever had. Norman came to my house straight from maturity. He took a shower, my straight edge shower. It's pretty sick.
That was pretty sick.
Well, I'll see you at Riot Fest in September. Are you gonna are you in town September 8th for the Gorilla Biscuits H2O show in Brooklyn? With Endit's playing too. Okay,
we're on tour for that. Well, you're gonna be. Well, you don't live in fucking Orange or whatever.
When you out here? When you out here again?
We're playing that Is for Lovers Festival on August 26th.
All right, I'm gonna check it out. I'm back August 13th from Europe, so just remind me.
If you're around, let me know.
Yeah, Orange is not far. What venue is it? Observatory.
No, it's like a fest type thing. So it's some venue I've never heard of before.
All right, cool. Who's on the fest? Who else is on it?
I think Thrice, Alkaline Trio.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, it's gonna be good. Bayside.
That's cool. Okay, cool.
Us. I think that's the top 4.
All right, awesome. So this episode's out now. Your birthday's in a couple days. Happy early birthday. Antimatter episode will be coming out this week too, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
So we're doing 2. This week is a couple of introductory posts and then regular publishing next week.
Awesome. I'm psyched. I'm psyched it's back.
Me too, man. Thank you for having me, by the way.
Of course.
Super psyched. And
give my love to Mike Judge too. And yeah, I'm excited for people. Hope people enjoyed this episode, and I'm glad we reconnected. And I'll see you soon.
All right. Have a good one.
All right, Noah. Bye.
Bye.
I always ask my guests if they have any regrets. I personally don't have any regrets. Even when it comes to my tattoos, I have the silliest tattoos. Even my ET on my leg, it's still a childhood memory for me, and I love it. I've had tattoos on top of tattoos strictly because I wanted more tattoos. I started getting tattoos when I was 18. I'm 52 now, and I can't stop. I've had laser treatment before on something on my arm. It's 4 tattoos on top of each other. And that experience at that place was pretty fast. It was pretty cold. It was in and out, swiped the credit card. Don't really tell me much. Didn't give me much details or anything was going to happen. So I never went back. So as of most recently, I'm so lucky enough to have had 2 sessions at Removery Tattoo Removal. My tattoo on my arm that looks like a big black blob is now super light. I've had 2 sessions. I have a long road ahead of me. None of this stuff happens overnight. You cannot take a tattoo up in one sitting. You have to be patient. And it's painful. They ice you up. It's super fast. To me, it felt like a bunch of rubber bands. But what's more painful than that is looking at something on your body that you think you're stuck with for the rest of your life. That sucks. But now for me, I'm really happy I started this journey. I'm slowly going to get this tattoo removed. I never thought in a million years I have any kind of real estate on my arm. I don't even know what I want, but it's exciting. I'm so honored to announce that One Life One Chance podcast is now with Removery. I have a code. Use TobyH20 and get $100 off your first session. Call 866-934-4570 or go to removery.com. One of the most experienced tattoo removal companies in the world. Over 600,000 removal treatments done. 100 locations, U.S., Canada, and Australia. State-of-the-art peak-away laser technology, cryo-technology to reduce any discomfort. This is so exciting for me because all I do in these podcasts is talk about tattoos. From day one, if you've been listening to this podcast, talk about tattoos, talk about getting removed, talk about getting covered up. So this is such a perfect fit for me. Once again, go to removery.com or call 866-934-4570. Use my code TobyH20 and get $100 off. These guys are located everywhere. Try it out.